All right, welcome back. Let's continue where we left off. Catholic. Okay. The cicada screeched. And then, a few days after, before I noticed, it was already entering mid-August. Nothing had particularly to change. And as always, I was headed to Himiko-san's place. Hearing a voice I recognized, I turned around. And the girl I had met before was there.
確か、姫子さんの。ええ、妹の千尋です。
As always, she spoke in a calm, well-mannered, gentle way. Unlike Himiko-san, if she, Chihiro-san, were said to be a helper or a Catholic, one wouldn't be surprised. Today, unlike the usual apron form seen in the hospital, apron, okay, it's apron. I don't know why I read it like that. She was in a white, cute one-piece dress that I thought was somehow her.
もしかしてこれから行くところ？うん。千尋さんも。いえ、私は先に寄るところがあるから。あ、そうだ。もしよかったら節美さんも一緒に来る？
I didn't know what was going on, but I continued walking behind Chihiro-san. Under the blazing sky, the two of us walked side by side along the street. Unlike Himiko-san, Chihiro-san spoke rarely. But somehow, she was a person with an air about her. Just from being with her, one could feel at ease. And then, a little before the hospital, she turned left at an intersection I normally didn't go. And at some point, as the area turned into a quiet residential neighborhood,
ほら、そこを曲がったところよ。
the rolling sound of bells. What appeared before me was a large church. Long ago, I knew there had been a church nearby, but this was the first time I've ever come to it.
ちなみに、隣の白い建物が私の家なの。
Saying that, what she pointed out was a pretty house that gave off a serene feeling. The tall, ivy-covered fence gave off a western atmosphere. It was probably obvious, but this being Chihiro-san's house meant that it was also Himiko-san's house. And then, following her urgings, I stepped into the church. The first church I'd entered. Streaming from windows and dazzling bright light and vividly colored stained glass. It was the first time I'd visited here, and I felt it was very beautiful. Peaceful. Was that the word? The polar opposite of glaring gaudiness might have felt like this.
でも、誰も人がいないね。うん。この時間は誰も来ないから。
With just that answer, Chihiro-san approached what looked like the altar. Then from her pocket she took out what resembled Buddhist prayer beads and quietly brought her hands together. Was that the thing called prayer? On TV, I've seen that the fingers were folded together, but this was like praying at the temple of New Year's Eve. New Year's with just the hands brought together. And the thing she took out her pocket. At first I had thought they were Buddhist beads, but looking carefully, it was a rosary. To me, everything was so fresh and new. This was, of course, the first time I've seen any of this.
ねえ、あなたも一緒に祈らない？私が。いいの？うん。別に祈りを捧げるのに資格はいらないから。でも、何を祈ればいいの？それは人それぞれ。ご自由に。
Once again, bringing her hands together, Chihiro-san quietly closed her eyes. Imitating her, I put my hands together in the same way. In the soundless place, closing my eyes, it felt everything dissolve into nothingness. However, I felt it wasn't a fear-instilling dark and emptiness, but a clear white that spread everywhere. But What in the world should I pray for, I wonder? Chihiro-san said that I was free to choose, but for me, finding what I should be praying for was difficult. Next to myself, I could hear the small whispers of Chihiro-san's voice. So small, I couldn't make out the words, but it definitely felt it was praying for Himiko-san. By that so very seriously praying figure, I felt my deduction couldn't be that far off. Once again, my eyes opened after some time. Well, just 30 seconds worth. When I looked next to me, Chihiro-san also seemed to be finishing up her praying.
ねえ、千尋さんはカトリックの人なんだよね。ええ、そうよ。まあ、カトリックの人ってのは変な表現だけどね。じゃあお姉さんは、姫子さんは違うの。お姉ちゃんはエセカトリックだとか言って否定しているけど、でも私が知る限りとても敬虔なクリスチャンよ。
In her usual kind way of speaking, she answered. From the Himiko-san that I knew, I couldn't imagine it, but none other than the Imoto Chihiro-san said so. So it must be as she said.
じゃあ出ましょうか。
Chihiro-san walked toward the entrance that we had come from. When I walked after in the same way, suddenly her feet stopped and she turned around.
あ、そうだ。節美さん、こっち向いて。
When I wondered what she was going to do, she once again placed her hands together.
あなたの上に主の豊かな恵みと祝福がありますように。私のために。もちろん私は司祭様じゃないから気持ちだけだけどね。
After that, we left the church and parted in front of the hospital. For me, it had all been new experiences.
教会やカトリックのことはよくわからない。
All I knew was that I reconfirmed that Chihiro-san was a very kind and good person. And also, Himiko-san that acted so coldly to her was apparently a devoted Catholic like her. Slightly late, I came to the usual place. But for some reason, I couldn't find Himiko-san in the hospital room or even the lounge. I wondered where she went. Ah, if you're looking for Himiko-san, she's in the courtyard. As I peered around, a nurse passing by spoke to me. It's hot, so tell her not to overdo things.
わかった。
When I looked, Himiko-san was in the middle of watering the flowers.
おはよう、節美。今日も暑いわね。
As she spoke, she held a hose in one hand and was spraying the flowers with vigor. However, her outfit was the usual pajamas and slippers. Additionally, maybe to defend against sunstroke, she wore a straw hat on her head. That image was oddly comical, but mysteriously seemed just like Himiko-san. To that Himiko-san, I pointed to the place we planted balls the other day.
もう目が出てくるの。そんなに早くは無理よ。
And then she showed me a carefree smile. She had been called a devoted Catholic, but for her to have an air like Chihiro-san had been praying in the church, at least to me, was unimaginable.
ここは荒野。だから花が咲くのよ。え、盛んに花を咲かせ、喜び喜んで歌う。知ってる？イザヤ書の言葉よ。
I shook my head. I don't really know, but it was probably some kind of scripture. Just now, as I was having that thought, Himiko-san's sudden words surprised me. By the way, before I continue, I remember reading the Bible when I was a kid, but I don't consider myself like a devoted Christian or whatever, Catholic or whatever. Well, I've been practicing for decades now, but like, I'm surprised at like, you know, when a culture that is not predominantly like, I don't know, Catholic tends to do that has people who are of Catholic, you know, some random Japanese who's a Christian or Catholic, they tend to be way more knowledgeable than your basic average ass Catholic from a country that's dominantly Catholic. Anyway, that was a weird comment. Anyway. Let's continue. And then, while I was thinking about that, it's hot today, isn't it? From somewhere came a nurse, someone I hadn't seen before. It seemed like someone from a floor I didn't know. Thank you very much, Himiko-san.
ついでに他の花にも水あげといたから。
So, which is better? I was thinking of taking
な
some
んかよ。
the third floor's X-ray waiting room.
じゃあ鉢植えでもいいわね。
As she spoke, she scooped out a number of white and yellow and white pansies and moved them to a plastic bag. Thank you very much. I'll be going then. Taking the plastic bag into her hands, the nurse disappeared into the building once more. On leaving, her hands made a cross. Maybe that nurse was also a Catholic? I didn't really understand it, but it seems that this flower bed Himiko-san could plant and pick as she pleased. I believe not because she was a resident of the 7th floor, but because in this hospital she was well known.
今の看護婦さんも知り合い。ええ、他にも知り合いは大勢いるわよ。
Being a former helper I had heard about, but did this come about just from that alone? Thinking about how this was a Catholic hospital, and then how she had been called a devoted Catholic earlier, I had this feeling that there was a link.
何よ、その不思議そうな顔は。別に何か権限をもらってるわけじゃないわよ。私は元ヘルパー。今は7階の住人。ただちょっとキャリアが長かったからそれなりに顔が利くって程度よ。
And she added that while she was my age. She had come in and out here often. From those words, having a long career didn't simply mean being a helper. Now that she mentioned it, she had once said that Catholics were involved in various public welfare activities. Looking at it like that, probably it was just as Chihiro-san said. Himiko-san might be a devout Christian. Kurisu-chan.
どうしたの？
Sorry.
まだなんか聞きたいの？
I couldn't help doing that. Kurisu-chan. Anyway.
どうして姫子さんはお祈りとかしないの？お祈り？この私が？だって敬虔なクリスチャンなんでしょ？そうね。エセカトリックが気に入らないなら元クリスチャンでもいいわよ。
I guess that fits my current. Okay, this is a comment. I guess that fits my current status. I don't know, man. Anyway, that would mean that in the past that it was true, but now it wasn't.
じゃあもうお祈りすることはないの？ないわ。
Firmly denied.
ついでに言わせてもらうとさ、祈りがあるってことは呪いもあるってことだと思わない？
I didn't really get it. Being suddenly asked such a question, I couldn't gather my thoughts. And there was the problem that I didn't know the difference between prayers and curses.
それよりも明日行こうと思うんだけど。ほら、この前は無理だったでしょ？
Did she mean the thing about the pineapple tree? In the end, we went to just before the station that day, but gave up and came back. She had said we would go again at a later date, but
でもどうやって行くの？大丈夫だってお姉さんに任せなさい。
I guess they're going to Station B this time around, huh?
とりあえずせっかくだからお弁当忘れないようにね。
As the sun was slowly setting, once again today, the two of us sat around the dinner table.
明日はお弁当2人分？いいかな。
Because tomorrow I was going out with Himiko-san, I tried asking for a lunch for two. However, even though my health had been good lately, if mother said no, I was planning on giving up on the idea.
やっぱりダメ。
もうそんなわけないでしょ。お母さん張り切って作ってあげるわよ。
Instead of worrying about me, mother easily gave her okay. In fact, she seemed even happier than usual. I think her mom was more surprised than like she was apprehensive or something like that.
ねえ、そ そのお友達の姫子さんって何か苦手なものあるのかしら。
ブロッコリー。
わかったわ。じゃあそれは入れないようにしてと。そうそう、今度よかったらうちにも遊びに来てもらいなさいよ。
うん。
Falling back onto the bed, I let out a big sigh. I'm sure that mother thinks that Himiko-sen was a normal hospital patient or a nurse. At the least, she wasn't thinking that it was someone for the 7th floor. The fries were like this. Himiko-san was also like this. The happier mother Okasan got.
私は心苦しかった。これが罪悪感と呼ばれるものだろうか。
You know what? As I think about how Setsubi is feeling guilty about a number of things, I think a number of her motivations for going through what she did in the first story is starting to make sense. But we don't know her final state, you know, when she, by the time she started accumulating all the knowledge, you know, if, I don't know, like, something else. I'm given the impression that something else happened in between her current state right now and the state we meet her. So I guess we have to finish this story, I guess. Let's continue. All right, starting Pineapple Tree. At a slightly earlier time than usual, I headed to the hospital. The lunches in the tote bag in my hand, number 2. Since it was hot, Okasan also prepared oh shit! Sorry, I accidentally clicked something. Since it was hot, Okasan also prepared a frozen water bottle for me. I wasn't sure how far we were going, but I was pretty sure she spoke about going all the way to the ocean before.
節美さん、千尋さん、実は探していたの。
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, someone her Imoto is already waiting outside. Holy shit. And from her pocket she took something out and offered it to me.
これ、お姉ちゃんに渡してもらえるかな。
Oh, she's aware, I guess. I guess she's aware.
キー。
What I accepted was a shining silver key.
もしかして車の？裏の駐車場に止めてるって言えばわかると思うから。
I see. I guess this hospital is so used to like people running out. Like the mere fact that the 7th floor patients already had like this the rule about station A, station B, and all that sort of thing. That means the staff is so used to like people running out of the hospital. Honestly. Anyway.
じゃあお願いね。
And maybe Chihiro-san was listening in their conversation. I don't know. With those final words, once again Chihiro-san rushed off somewhere. It couldn't be. I didn't think she was planning on going by car, but... Or maybe there was someone else to drive. As I wondered about it, I went to Himiko-san as I was told. Peeking into the lounge and seeing that she wasn't there, I headed to the hospital room.
おはよう。今日は早いわね。そう言われてたから。あとこれ渡してくれって。
As I answered, I showed her the key I was given earlier.
ありがとう。じゃあ行きましょうか。
As if it was perfectly natural, Himiko-san took the key. Well, okay, I do remember they talked about putting the car on the hospital, right? I do remember that earlier conversation, but I couldn't imagine it being like, you know, it's been, I don't know, months since Himiko got to the 7th floor and all, and she asked a favor from her friend. But, you know, cars, you know, you kind of do maintenance, you have to do some maintenance with the cars once in a while, even if you especially if you leave them behind doing nothing at all for months, right? I don't know, man. But like, yeah, anyway. Was she really planning on going by car? We came to the parking lot. Since it was just the time in the morning, When outpatients came in, the area near the entrance was packed with cars. And then walking a while in the parking lot as we came to the farthest part.
久しぶりね。
Actually, isn't it kind of worse because it's an open top car? So do you know how many months it has been? Unless her friend parked it the night before, right? Otherwise, if it's been there for like months, it's not gonna look so well, right? I don't know. Nah, I think it was brought there the night before. There was no way. There was no way they're gonna leave it there for months. Anyway, she stopped in front of one car, a red-colored open top. However, the car was, as far as I could see, made for two. At that point, the theory that there was some other driver vanished.
いい車でしょ。そんなことより車に乗っていいの？法的にはね。
Legally sure. That wasn't what I meant though.
危ないわよ。事故ればね。もう大丈夫だって分かってるから。
Damn, think about it. For Setsumi, she had a similar experience to what she did during her when she was 22. Oh damn, man. I actually that got me really curious about, like, I mean, from the first story alone, it was like, if they were talking about like whether they wanted to pass away in the 7th floor or at home, and if there was any opportunity to do something else, and this guy shows up, you know, I don't know, because stories like this are like adding additional context in retrospective than, like, you know, the original story was just like, it was sufficient for you to know that, like, Himiko was like, oh, I'm so not gonna I just so don't want to die in the 7th floor or like home. So she was down to like ride a car. But now you have additional story that try to recontextualize things from a retrospective context. At least from a, well, I believe, I don't know the full details. I mean, some people said that the reading order should be 2 then 1. But like, I think the original would be like, I mean, obviously the original order would be 1 and 2, and I'm guessing that the stories were written at the same order. Like 2 wasn't written until they realized, oh, the first story we made was successful. Maybe not. You know what? I don't know about the release order. Let me read up on that stuff. But like, I don't know if this is more of a story that recontextualizes the first story, or if this was something already they had in mind and just, you know. Anyway, let's continue for now. I don't want to think about this too much.
これでも自分の体のことは自分が一番よく分かってるって。
But even if you say that, I don't know how much stress I can put in it.
あのね、私だって本当に危ないと思ってたら乗らないわよ。本当に。ええ、道路は私一人で走ってるわけじゃないんだからさ。
And after saying that, Himiko-san quickly got into the car.
どうするのよ。シートが片側空いているんだけど。
Alright. Raising a light engine noise, the red open top started running. Moving from the usual familiar streets past the neighborhood supermarket I occasionally went to, passing 3 intersections in moments, we suddenly went onto a large road. But I wonder, just where in the world was she planning on going? Before, she said that it was about 2 hours by train, so I think it would be quite a distance, but as I thought that, I sat next to her and stared at the view.
ああ、ごめん、揺れた？ちょっと。少し辛抱してね。運転久しぶりだから勘を取り戻すまで。
Oh yeah, this did happen. This also kind of happened with the first guy, right? Because he kind of forgot how to play around with the clutch. Before it came to that, I thought her driving felt rough. In reality, she probably wasn't going that fast, but maybe because there was no route, even the slightest swerve was extremely scary.
ねえ、もうちょっとゆっくり。なんか言った？なんでもないわよ。
I decided to silently grip the seatbelt tight. My hand was going to be a disaster from the wind, but I'll live with that. Already, the sight of me desperately gripping the seatbelt with both hands might have been ridiculous looking. I'm already imagining it.
あれ？説明何やってるの？私のことは気にしないで。
Around when, if you looked around, the scenery was changing from being in the city to a beautiful green. Himiko-san had finally regained her driving sense, or maybe I was the one who had gotten used to that driving. In either case, it got to the point where we could calmly talk.
どう？オープンも悪くないでしょ。うん。風が気持ちいい。そうそう。この自然との一体感がいいのよね。
Clearly, I hadn't thought so in the city. However, here in the middle of this natural place, it felt very liberating and nice. And even as we spoke about this, cars driving in the next lane were constantly passing us, which means I guess they were already driving really slow for like normal driving in the road they were using. Anyway, I had originally thought that Himiko-san's driving was scary, but it seemed that she wasn't driving safely, that she really was driving safely. Well, you know, it could also be a function of like, Setsumi not used to being in a car and the open top thing, but it's kind of like that.
これなんて車？あら、車に興味あるの？別にそういうわけじゃないけど。
There wasn't any deep meaning behind the question, just for no reason I wanted to know.
ユーノス、ロードスターよ。もしかしてすごい車なの？そんなに驚くほどじゃないわ。ただ私が好きってだけで、エアコンもナビもない古臭い車よ。
And then Himiko-san taught me many things about the car. How it was the first generation NA model, what the power weight ratio was. She continued talking as best as she could about technical things.
86に抜かれた。
As she spoke, she pointed at one car passing in the next
あ
lane.
いつに抜かれるとなぜか悔しいのよね。
Oh man, okay, Himiko-san's one of those kinds of drivers, man. They're no chill. And then Himiko-san continued on about the midship layouts, the rotary engines, always passionately talking about these mysterious things. Lemons. That was some kind of dessert, I think. Of course, for me, I had no clue about any of this stuff. But the fact that Himiko-san really loved cars had made itself clear even to me.
でも変ね。何が？思ってたよりしっかり走るわ。長い間ほったらかしだった割にはね。
Oh, I guess someone's maintaining the car. I really think the car was being maintained by someone else and they only parked it the night before. The roadster continued on, its red hood reflecting the summer sky as it ran. And when, if you looked up, the sun had been behind us, was coming right overhead. We passed through the long, long mountain road, and then before our eyes spread the sea.
どう？いい景色でしょ。
A shoreline that continued endlessly. Summer sunlight that sparkled and reflected off the emerald waves. Far away swaying pine groves, distant voices of seagulls. And then what could be seen along the sides of the road were many phoenix palms. Himiko-san said that they were apparently pineapple trees. As she had mentioned before, each and every one of them was big.
ここが目的地。ええ、もう間もなくよ。少し行ったところに路駐できる場所あるから。はい、着い いたわよ。
Along the road running parallel to the sea was a shoulder that seemed to be for emergency stopping. There was space for 2 or 3 cars to stop, but since there was no traffic, it wasn't likely that another car would come. Stopping the car in that place, we got out of the car.
ねえ、缶ジュース何がいい？レモンティー。了解。ちょっと待っててね。はい、お待たせ。
Mixed with the crashing waves, the quick sound of pull tabs rang out. And then Himiko-san facing the sea with her hand on her hip.
おいしい。
As if coming out of the bath and drinking a milk, she gulped down the orange juice in one go. And as for no reason, I also put my hand on my hip and tried gulping down the lemon tea in one go. That's really cute. Then we walked towards the sea spread out before our eyes.
ここは綺麗なところね。ええ。私のちょっとしたお気に入りスポットかな。以前にもよく来ていたの。そうでもないけど、たまにはね。もともとは偶然発見したんだけどさ。偶然？だってほら、あの車ってナビないでしょ。だから最初は適当に走ってて着いたのよ。
As she answered, Himiko-san's face was just a little bit different from usual. It was somehow lonely, somehow nostalgic, a complicated kind of face.
さてと、それよりも目的があったわね。
Just as what she said registered, she began rummaging through the trunk of the car. Then taking out a small saw-like object, she started walking towards a large phoenix palms by the roadside. Wait, are they allowed to do that? I'm thinking about like, is anyone allowed to randomly cut a tree in the middle of nowhere? I'm like, wait, is that okay? Anyway, did she really mean to cut one?
ねえ、それは何よ。あら、弓の子って知らない？本来は金属切断用だけど、よく切れるのよ。そうじゃなくて、何をするつもり？もちろん切るのよ。ちょびっと5センチくらい。
Okay, 5 centimeters, so it's like, alright, fine. Well, you know, as long as I guess no one spots them doing that. 'Cause as she spoke, she placed the hacksaw against the phoenix palm. I had a feeling it was better to stop, but I didn't know just how serious Himiko-san herself was. Or maybe if it's just 5 centimeters, then it matters so much. I wasn't worried about these things alone.
やっぱりやめた。
Saying that, she once again returned the hacksaw to the trunk of the car. Decided to give up? Or had she not been serious from the start?
まだ人目があるから、もう少し暗くなってからにするわ。
Right, this is the thing I was worrying about. Yeah, I guess I'll wait. Yeah, I think if it's dark, no one's gonna be watching, you know. So it's not like she gave up at all. Burning sunlight, moist sea breeze, and the scent of the ocean. Once in a while, a number of seagulls came close. On that kind of beach, the two of us started a late lunch.
あなたのお母さん料理うまいわね。今日のは特にいい感じだね。
Oh no. You could tell there was something going on with that line. Speaking about these things, we ate our lunch. Sitting upon the sheet Himiko-san prepared, it was a lunch party where the two of us put on straw hats to keep off the sun. Almost like pigeons in the park. When we gave the umineko crumbled croquettes, they fiercely snapped them up. Looking at those silly figures, the two of us laughed. Or was it Kamame? Wait, let me. Wait, fucking Japanese shit, man. You know what? I'm just gonna read seagulls. I don't want to overthink this. Oh shit! I accidentally opened another instance of OBS. Let me close that one. That's meant for like recording other things. Hamome. Okay, nice. Alright, sorry, I was distracted by the most minor things.
どうやらまだ好きだと思っているようね。
Well, looks like she never told her yet, right? Anyway, the words came as she looked at the potato fry that were always there. And those words, I couldn't help but fall silent. She had said it wasn't kindness. In other words, it probably meant that if I don't like them, then there was kindness in saying so. Even I understood that. Understood. But wringing her hands, doing it for me, in front of such a happy mother, say that sort of thing, knowing just how sad it would make her. That was because even I knew that much. When I looked, Himiko-san was gently patting me on the back, as if calming a crying child. She continued to pat my back.
しょうがないわよ。口で言うほど簡単じゃないからね。姫子さん。そうね。いつかちゃんと言えるといいわね。うん。すごく難しいことだけど、実はわがまま言いまくりでちょうどいいのかもよ。
Saying that, she gave me a smile. With her usual cheery face, she gently encouraged me. Alright, 8-year wine. Holy shit, 8-year wine. Who's drinking wine here? The sea breeze stopped and the long summer day began drawing to a close. Around when the waves, the sky, and everything that could be seen was stained orange.
さて、そろそろいい頃かしら。
As she spoke, Himiko-san once again went to get the hacksaw. For an already sparsely traveled place, she probably had been waiting for this even more opportune time. And in the middle of that, a single car came down the road in front of us. For some reason, it was headed straight for where we were.
何か車が来たみたい。珍しいわね。こんな場所で止まるなんて。
What is this spelling? Anyway, whatever. What stopped before our eyes was an unknown subcompact car. Beyond the lace curtains, what could be seen in the car was lots of stuffed toys and numerous accessories. That was without a doubt the car of someone with a girlish taste.
変な車。
Indeed, subcompacts with frilly interiors in this day and age just don't exist anymore. Wait, you know what? I want to visualize what that looks like because I don't know what a subcompact car is. Subcompact car. Oh. Okay, let me put Japan while I'm at it. Oh, it's a K car. Oh. Let me add frilly interiors. I guess all I can say is the thing I can imagine right now is a K car. Okay. In front of the car that stopped before us, we both gave our impressions, and then the owner of the strange car quietly opened the door.
よっ、元気そうね。あなた、ユカ。
Oh damn! Holy shit! It's Yuka! Holy shit!
偶然ね。こんなところで会うなんて。
Coincidence. What a lie. Just a little goose in, I guess. Anyway.
とんでもない偶然ね。
It seemed to be someone Himiko-san knew. Who was this? A short, cute-looking person who suited the frilly clothing she wore. Himiko-san herself said that she knew many people at the hospital, but the person before my eyes didn't seem like that sort of person.
ところで、何よ、その品のない車は。うるさいわね。あんたのオンボロよりマシよ。つか、こう見えても新車よ。たく、ペーパーに遠距離走らせるんじゃないわよ。 あなたこそ年を考えなさいよね、年を。
What was this? This feeling. It seemed like an argument. And also, it seemed to amount to a conversation. And yet, somehow, it just didn't feel like that at all.
でもまあ、なんていうか、何唐突に言ってんのよ。いろいろよ。きっとあなたがユーノスも整備してくれていたんでしょ。知らないわよ。偶然でしょ。
そう偶然。
じゃあこれもそういうことにしといてあげる。
Wait, it's been 2 years. Holy shit, it's been 2 years. Oh, yeah, it's obvious that she's been maintaining it. There's no way she'll leave that in the parking lot. Because if it was kept in the parking lot for 2 years, the interior is gonna be fucked. Anyway, the very happily conversing Himiko-san. Of all the times that I've seen Himiko-san up to now, this expression was the first. And the person she spoke to, by her words, she was always angry. But it didn't feel like that at all.
じゃあ、私もう行くから。
With just that little conversation, the woman quickly got back into her own car. Like she might have not known just why she had even come. But in truth, didn't she want to talk more? Didn't she want to spend much more time together? For some reason, I felt that way. And couldn't help but turn to Himiko-san and open my mouth.
このまま別れてもいいの。
There wasn't any particular reply. She just continued to gaze at that person. Didn't she really want to talk more? I hesitated in even uttering those words. Somehow, I sensed that I shouldn't intrude. And then, the car that I thought was just going to leave, the briefly closed driver's seat window opened one more time.
ねえ、姫子。分かってるわ。
Just exchanging those words, both of them fell silent. Both Himiko-san and the unknown woman whose face was nearly in tears. In the world where everything that could be seen as stained orange, only the crashing of waves and the cries of the seagulls sounded. And then, as the driver's seat window closed,
そのじゃあね。
with those last words, she once again returned to the road.
バカね。相変わらず7階に来ちゃダメだからってこんな場所にまで来るなんて。今の人はそうね、ちょっと素直じゃなくて、でも本当は優しい皆勤賞を逃した人よ。皆勤賞？ええ。そして一番の親友よ。
Himiko-san slowly murmured. Her eyes were gentle, but somewhere lonely.
おかげで残り3つが2つになっちゃったわ。パイナップルの木じゃなかったの。それもあるけど、それとは別にね、もう一度だけ会ってみたかったのよ。親友とね。
And then the orange colored scenery slowly changed to blue. Already the camome and the cicadas cries had disappeared, and only the sound of the waves hung over the beach. Within that, the two of us were still at that place. 5 centimeters.
やっぱパイナップルの木じゃなかったみたいね。残念残念。
Her words said that, but it certainly didn't sound like it. Instead, Himiko-san sounded as if she were having fun.
大地それ1センチも切ってないわよ。
いいのよ。これ以上は木がかわいそうでしょ。
だったら最初から切らなければいいのに。
ダメ。何事もやりもしないで決めつけるべきじゃないの。
And then, with lightly skipping steps, she began walking towards the water's edge.
ほら、せっかく海に来たんだし、遊んで帰りましょう。ねえ、設備も来なさいよ。冷たくて気持ちいいわよ。
Oh, nice. This is a good CG, I guess. Alright. The water's edge, barefoot, raising the helm of her pajamas. Himiko-san seemed to be having fun. Could it be that in reality, testing the pineapple tree didn't matter at all? I couldn't imagine the reason, but it might have been that she wanted an excuse, whatever it was, to go outside. And in contrast to my inner thoughts, Himiko-san was enjoying herself at the water's edge. Oh, yeah, this one's good CG. However, even though I didn't understand plenty, there was one thing that I understood. The figure of Himiko-san right now before my very eyes. Without a doubt, in a few months, this person will disappear. That sunny smile, the gentle patting on my back, the warmth in that hand will disappear. Only that was unmistakable.
こら、そんなところで何黄昏れてんのよ。来ないと本格的に水かけちゃうわよ。
分かったわよ。
Having been prodded, I also took off my shoes and headed to the water's edge barefoot.
どう？気持ちいいでしょ。
冷たくて気持ちいい。
I washed my feet in the waves and felt the sand and the feel of the sand. The cool evening water both felt good. How many years was it since I've been in the sea like this, I wonder? When will be the next time I could come to the sea like this? I wonder.
さあ、いよいよ盛り上がってまいりました。
And then, from the convenience store bag in her hand, Himiko-san took out something. Just when I wondered what it was.
じゃーん、ここでお酒登場。
Wait, you're gonna go drive? Holy shit, with alcohol? I was about to say something that could incriminate me, but I'm not gonna say something. Well, that was many years ago. And in another country. So no one knew. Other than... Well, what am I talking about? Maybe that's just a fabricated idea. Anyway.
ほら、あなたもグラス持って。
でも私お酒は。
Yes. But the age loss.
いいからいいから、パイナップルの真実も突き止めたことだし。それにこれ、8年もののワインなんだから。
With her overflowing aura, she half forcibly poured me a glass. The clear red wine seemed overlaid with the beautiful color of the moonlight's blue. The two of us waded into the sea, to our ankles and took off our glasses.
ところで節美、あなた今いくつだっけ
15。
じゃあ8年もののワインと15歳に乾杯。あと私の人生にも。
What is there an app? What? Never mind. The moon floating in the cloudy summer sky illuminated the dark beach. The 10 things to do before dying. 3 weeks ago, I was told to go along with the remaining tree. And now the pineapple tree and best friend were cleared, leaving what appeared to be one more. I didn't know what that was, but the day for doing that last one might not be that far off. A bit of time passed. Himiko-san was still happily walking along the water's edge. Suddenly her feet stopped and turned this way.
ねえ節美、もしも もしもだけどさ、このまま海に入っていったら
Don't tell me this is where Setsumi gets the idea of how her suicide went.
楽に死ねるかな。
Over there, the expression that had been on her face just before had disappeared.
その時はあなた止めてくれる？
本気で死ぬ気ならとっくに海に飛び込んでいるはずだわ。
相変わらずクールね。
As she spoke, she splashed her way back.
よっこいしょっ
As she spoke, she splashed her way back.
と。さて、また盛り上がってきたわね。
In contrast to her words, she spoke calmly and turned to face the one who had fallen silent. Me.
いいわよ。あるんでしょ？聞きたいことたくさん。
Giving a small nod, I slowly opened my mouth. From long before, there had been many things I wanted to ask Himiko-san.
死ぬって聞かされた時泣いた。
そりゃちょっとはね。
じゃあどうして自分だけがって恨んだ？
それは難しい質問ね。逆にあなたに聞くけどさ、恨むって誰に対して？
I didn't know. How's my reaction to the unexpected question?
そうね。もし神様ってのがいるのなら恨んだかもね。
元カトリックのくせに神様の存在を信じてないの？
いいえ、信じてるわよ。元カトリックでもね。おそらく神様はいる。でもね、どうやら多忙らしいのよ、神様とやらは。
Or maybe he just doesn't care, perhaps. Wait, how come this line doesn't have a voice line? Anyway, she continued to speak blandly, as if talking to herself. By the way, before I continue, since if you're in this YouTube channel, then you're most likely a fan of a Kirokyu or Makura work. This would be a good moment to talk about the footprints in the sand, but look, this isn't that visual novel. That face illuminated by the moonlight felt somehow lonely and philosophical.
ねえ、節美、あなたフランダースの犬って知ってる？
フランダースの犬？
ええ、結構有名な話だから知ってるでしょ。
大体は。
I actually don't know what it is. Maybe they'll contextualize it for us who have never read that. I answered with the slightest of nods at the sudden title. When I was young, I think I watched an anime broadcast of it. I believe it was a story about the child who had lost his family, Nello, and his dog, Patrash. Oh, is this why it's so popular? The Patrash is so popular in Japan. Oh, okay.
ネロとパトラッシュとアロア、あなたは誰になりたい？もしくは誰にはなりたくない？
Okay, I guess they're not gonna explain that shit. You know what? I'm gonna just read that on my own time. Let me open up the tab so I won't forget about it. Dog of Flanders. Wait a second. In Japan, Korea, Russia, Ukraine, and the Philippines, the novel have been a popular blah 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 blah. What the fuck? How come I never heard of that shit? What the fuck? Anyway, let's continue. The ones who ultimately died, Nello and Patrash, and the two's best friend, Aos. I didn't want to die, but even saying that, I didn't want to be the one left behind, Aos.
誰にもなりたくない。
そりゃあ無理な相談ね。
どうして？
人にはこの3択しかないのよ。
As Yumiko-san answered, her face was different from the usual. The expression that she occasionally showed, the very strict expression, was there. Nella and Owls. Okay, I'm gonna read the summary later. I'm supposed to know this shit, but I didn't. Why am I? Whatever. It was supposed to be popular in my country. I never read that. Is that a lie? Is Wikipedia lying? What the? Anyway, June, a white overcast sky spread out today. This time's assignment is different from usual. In front of the hospital, my head was full of anticipation about the person I haven't seen yet. In the middle of the long hallway, I saw the doctor and spoke to him. So, are you really fine with it?
ええ、ぜひともお願いします。
Even if you say that. The doctor showed reluctance at my wishes. Isn't the burden too heavy for someone who's still a university student? That was probably the unspoken meaning behind it. The patient is... well, you know, right?
もちろんです。だからこその担当志願ですし。
When the doctor still continued looking doubtful, I pressed harder. The source of this was my volunteering to be the helper of a new patient to the hospice.
ちゃんと教会からの推薦状もいただいてきました。
As I spoke, I handed a single sealed envelope over. Here, the domain of extraordinary acts was not decided by the hospital alone. The wishes of the church often also had influence. Oh, the Kyokai, holy shit. Fucking cray, man. Alright, I'll inform the director.
ありがとうございます。
Giving a deep bow, I left the place. Well, technically, Kure only has authority in Fuyuki City, but I forgot the name of the pope in Type Moon's universe. Sixtus or something? I'll research it again. I forgot. Yeah, you know what? I really wish they have a full-blown story about the church in that in Type Moon. It's one of those mysterious organizations, and I just want them to have like a full-blown visual novel of the church. That'll be so cool. Anyway, a helper's application for the 7th floor assignment. That, in itself, wasn't a particularly strange occurrence. Moreover, up until now, I had served 3 hospice patients already. Concerning my age, that was a rare amount of helper experience. It could be said that I was a veteran. As to why it was rare, in normal hospitals, no matter how much a person volunteered, it would have been difficult for a university volunteer to be stationed at a hospice. No matter how short-staffed, the place called the hospice was afforded that consideration.
でも、ここはキリスト教病院。
And moreover, even compared to the other places, was a strongly religiously oriented place than medical services oriented.
そして私はカトリック。
Someone who, before her earliest memories, received the waters of baptism, who was actively engaged in public welfare activities. There were probably all of the reasons.
だけど今度の担当はいつもと違う。
Patient was the child, and also not just a child, but one without any guardians and bedridden. Essentially, a child with no relatives or no parents. Of course, that didn't mean the child had no parents at birth. Well, cruel leaving a bedridden child and vanishing just like that. There were many of those kinds of parents. I didn't want to accept it, but that was also a reality. And such a child with no place to go, no relatives, the first to take the child in would be a Catholic hospital like ours.
もしくは最後の砦と言ってもよかった。
And that merciful stance, it was that aspect of Catholicism itself that was my reason for being faithful. That's why I was not a devoted follower. It didn't matter if it was Baptist or Protestant. I probably wouldn't have cared. Though I had been baptized before I had memories. It was just a coincidence that I was born and raised in a house next to a church. But even if it were a coincidence. I didn't have the resolve to want to swear a long life service. It was simply a follower of that merciful spirit. Different from the usual 7th floor, today it was to this 5th floor, headed to greet the Nello I still hadn't seen. The word Nello was a term between us and us helpers and nurses. Resident of the 7th floor child without relatives, bringing those together, most likely, it had been a name taken from a dog of Flanders. It was a pretty disrespectful naming, but at this point, no one knew the truth behind it. When I came, it felt already long established.
ただ悪意を持っての呼び方ではないのだろう。
The reason was, whenever it was known that Nello was coming, the number of doctors, nurses, and helpers who sought the assignment was great. That sort of situation was probably because this was a hospital following crisis teachings, which aim at a self-sacrificing attitude. And then among those, the helpers assigned to Nello were called, with both respect and jest, owls. But in reality, Patrash would have been closer.
でも私たちは一緒に死んであげることはできない。
That was why they were called closest best friend, owls.
そしてこの私もアロア役を求める一人だった。おはよう。
Raising her torso up in the bed, a girl looked this way. Above her knees, perhaps because it was just past noon, was an already eaten lunch tray. Her voluminous hair left an impression.
あら、偉いわね。ちゃんと残さずに食べたのね。
本当はブロッコリー嫌いだけど。
I'm starting to get something here, man. Every person, I'm getting an impression of like how a person acted, you know, leaves behind a strong impression to a person, you know, to the person who, you know, they interacted with a person, they have particular quirks, habits, or whatever, and they pass it on to the person they meet. I mean, we kind of saw that a bit with Satsumi and Himiko-san. She took up her quirks, but like, let's continue for now.
それでお姉さんは？
ああ、自己紹介がまだだったわね。今度あなたの担当になったヘルパーよ。
As I answered, I opened up the certificate and showed her. A child at this age, it might have been pointless, but showing the person now was a set thing here.
じゃあこれからよろしくね。
こちらこそ。
She responded with those words, but she looked this way with a puzzled expression.
でもヘルパーって何？
That was unexpected. It had been likely that there were lots of things she didn't understand, but I hadn't thought it was to this extent.
お医者さんや看護婦さんとは違うの？
それは
I wondered how I should answer that question. Someone that took care of them. Normally that probably would have been fine. But from here on out, what faced this girl was the 7th floor. And I was her helper. The owls were Nello. Normally, unless one were notified, one couldn't be admitted to the 7th floor. Meaning, they had been informed they had already run out of treatments. To be direct about it, the pronouncement that he would die. Only after they receive that explanation and the hospital receives their agreement are they finally allowed in. And that was exactly why, in many general hospitals, hospices were not offered to children. However, Nellos were different. This place was different. If both parents had been Catholics, then even more so.
どうしたの？お姉さん。
ごめんなさい。
While thinking over the question, what is a helper? I had fallen silent.
そうね。友達みたいなもんよ。
お姉さんが私の？
だから何でも遠慮なく言ってね。
Quickly, I began cleaning up the tray that the girl had already finished eating.
ごめんなさい。
いいの。友達なんだから遠慮しないね。
I continued speaking to the girl who was still acting reserved.
それにね、嬉しいのよ私。
どうして？
実はね、以前から年の離れた友達が欲しかったのよ。
私もお姉さんが欲しかった。
じゃあ決まりね。
As I spoke, I held out my hand.
これからもよろしくね。
こちらこそ。
The burning sunlight and the sound of cicadas. The hand I touched for the first time was warm. A summer day, which would transfer to the 7th floor, and so we became friends. Nello and Alice became friends. A few days after, as usual, I headed to the girl.
あつ。
As the early cicadas began to call in earnest, today looked like it would be a hot day again.
おはよ
おはよう。
The same as yesterday, she lightly raised her body on the bed and exchanged greetings. Just a little bit, she seemed to be lowering her guard, but she was still somewhat reserved.
う。もう朝の検温は終わった？
6度5分だった。
そう。だったら安心ね。
As I answered, I cleaned up the breakfast tray. With that, I'd run out of things that I had to do until afternoon. To begin with, there wasn't much for helpers to do. Medical matters were the work of doctors and nurses. At the most, it was on the level of taking temperatures and giving support in their daily lives. However, another way to say it would be that there was no upper limit to supporting their daily lives. And it was exactly for that reason that it wasn't the doctors and nurses, but the assigned helper that was given the name Alice.
じゃあさ、食堂にでも行こうか。
でもさっき食べたとこだけど。
アイスよ、アイス。これだけ暑いんだからさ。
でも
She made a complicated face and looked down. She must be thinking of something besides politeness.
大丈夫だって。お姉さんおごってあげるから。
And so, as if I were pushing her from behind, we headed to the cafeteria. Since it was still morning, there was a scattering of people. Within that, we sat next to each other at the table.
さあ、何でも好きなの言って。
でも
だから遠慮いらないって。
As I spoke, I turned to the cafeteria menu.
じゃあバニラで。
はい、バニラ了解。私は何にしようかなって。アイスって1種類しかないのね。
Just trying her joke.
そうみたい。
これじゃ選択の余地なかったわね。
Oh no, some Sakino idea just went into my mind. It's like the illusion of choice. And them being in the 7th floor. Wait, never mind. I don't want to continue that line of thought. Maybe I'm overreading this thing.
すぐ買ってくるわ。
Leaving the girl seated, I headed to the counter. Looking around, the children of a similar age as the girl were eating together with their mother or father. Of course, the child of that age, eating alone in a hospital cafeteria, would have been more strange. But the girl's parents were already gone. Of course, the girl didn't know, wasn't allowed to know.
はーい、お待たせ。
アイスがいっぱい。
ええ、思ったよりサイズ小さかったから一つじゃ寂しいと思ってね。というわけでノルマは一人二つだからね。あれ、もしかしてアイス嫌いだった？
そうじゃないけど、もしお母さんに見つかったら怒られるかも。いつもはアイスはダメって言われてたから。
Seeing that, she looked down sadly.
大丈夫よ、お姉さんと一緒だったら。
本当に？
先生や看護婦さんも怒らないから。
わかった。
And this time, she happily extended her hand toward the spoon. It was probably a given, but since coming here, she likely hadn't eaten any. However, someone of this child's age, there was no way they could hate ice cream or chocolate. While pondering that, I watched the girls eating, and after just a few spoonfuls, once again her hand stopped.
どうかした？
そういえばお母さん、最近は全然お見舞いにも来てくれないの。
God damn, man. God damn.
以前は毎日のように来てくれてたのに。
I see. Beyond that, I couldn't say any more. There was no need for this child to know. At least, in my case, it didn't seem like I would be able to tell her. Your parents are long gone. You, all alone, will be going to the 7th floor. There was just no way I could say that. And sadly, I learned that it was a very common thing. Leaving behind only the patient, the family disappearing. There were probably various reasons. Financially, psychologically, I thought it was a very heartless and cruel act. But I couldn't rise to unilaterally blame the parents. To leave behind a child on the sickbed and disappearing. No parent would do so willingly. And on top of the cliche words of being worn out from giving care, their agonies and burdens must have been great. I just felt this world was sad. And that too, I learned was another part of reality.
どうかしたのお姉さん。
なんでもないわよ。それよりも、ほら、よかったら私の分もあげよっか。
でも、
いいから遠慮しないで。
Moving the girls' already finished dishes aside, I replaced them with my own dishes of ice cream.
おいしい？
このアイスおいしいね。
Saying that, she showed me a smile. The usually reserved girl smile for the first time for me. Over a hospital cafeteria's cheap vanilla. The first time she looked at me with a happy face. A few days after, the burning sunlight and the sound of cicadas. Today, I also headed to the girl's place. The other day, she had been transferred to the 7th floor, but nothing in particular seemed to have changed. So the greatest worry now was the question about her parents. I had no confidence in how I would answer that. Ohayo.
今日も暑いわね。
I exchanged greetings with a nurse friend. How is it? Are you used to here yet?
もともと5階でも個室だったしね。
The here that she spoke about was the 7th floor. And used to was, of course, not speaking about me. Could it be that you were together all night?
まあ、補助ベッドで寝るのは慣れてるから。
Really? When there's no guardians around, it's difficult in many ways, isn't it? To the words, I gave a vague nod. And by the way, what she was hinting at, how there were no guardians around, What she hinted at was that it wasn't that they had vanished without a trace, but they no longer were in this world. The cause of that was something the nurses didn't tell me, but I only heard that it wasn't an accident or sickness. Oh, fuck. Oh. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. The remaining possible causes of death were but one. And that was why no more was asked by either of us. Even in this modern age, for us Catholics, it was a great sin and a forbidden act. Well, if there's anything, just say okay.
ありがとう。おはよう。どう具合は？今日はいいみたい。
As always, the girl raised her upper body in bed and looked over, and I sat down in the folding chair next to the bed. Then, just like that, we spent most of the whole day together. From the window, the bright sunlight shone on her profile, and once in a while, we would talk about little things. That was our usual appearance.
今日も綺麗なお花ね。
Decorating the windowsill were a number of small flower vases. In them shone bright white and yellows.
あのね、看護婦さんが飾ってくれたの。そう。よかったわね。
As I answered, I added water to the vase of the yellow gerberas, while she happily watched my actions. From a glance, it was the scene of a common everyday hospital room. However, the truth was different. In reality, visitors' flowers for the girl didn't exist. Since there were no relatives, there is no one to bring them. But at this hospital, especially for the 7th floor, someone always sent flowers. That was the nurses and us helpers. Everyone on the floor shared in it. And when even that wasn't enough, some were selected from the flower beds. That was also another part of the job. Even for people who had absolutely no visitors, it was a situation where we made it so that there were always flowers.
ガーベラが好き？うん。でも白い方がもっと好き。
As she spoke, she pointed to the other vase, at the white lilies. Generally, as visiting flowers, their scent was too strong. This vase wasn't one that we prepared, but I could imagine who the sender was. Someone who would send such a gift. There weren't that many.
教会って人が飾ってくれたの。ええ。どうやらお越しになられたようですね。また来るって言ってた。
The girl happily answered that she liked lilies. Most likely it was a priest or a sister who had come to visit. Considering the girl's circumstances, it wasn't surprising that the church would do something like that. Even for people who were not of the faithful, they were included, without distinction, and with a merciful spirit. In a way, it was exactly like this place. But for this girl, she probably didn't understand it much. Even if both parents were Kurisu-chan, the girl herself had not been baptized and was young and innocent.
そういえばお父さんとお母さんのことだけど。
I had the sudden question about the parents. I jumped. This was the thing I worried about facing the most.
ね、遠くに旅行に行ってるんだって。だからしばらくお見舞いにも来れないって。
Who said such a thing? I swallowed down the words of the immediate question. Perhaps a doctor or a nurse. There was also a chance it had been a priest or sister. But no matter who it was, it didn't seem I would be able to contradict it. Speak of this lie. Say that we simply shouldn't lie. That is an evil. I wasn't childish enough to believe that would be the end of such matters. I didn't know who had said it, but their feelings were probably the same as mine. As someone from a long distance were to contend this act, this excuse to avoid the question as What is this? The spelling of hypocrisy? What the fuck? Hypocrisy. I want them to teach us, who are directly in contact with things, some other way. If this act were to be called evil, then all of us, I suppose, would be evil people. Going along with the lie would probably mean I was an accomplice.
お母さん早く帰ってこないかな。いつもねプリン作ってきてくれるんだよ。ね、お姉さんも一緒に食べようね。
楽しみね。
Beyond that, I couldn't find any words to reply with. It was just against the intense pressure of being able to say nothing. I couldn't help but string together whatever words I could.
そうだ。ねえ、食堂行きましょうよ。
でもさっき朝ごはん食べたとこだよ。
いいからまたアイスおごってあげるから。
Once again, as if pushing her from behind, we headed to the usual hospital cafeteria. Danilo and Els, who became friends. Really, it was closer to being Patrash, but we were unable to dine with them. That's why I was Nello's #1 best friend, Els. But continuing to hold secrets, could I truly be called a friend? And also, the fact that the girl herself would soon be dying. Just how long must that be concealed? A few days after, today, a clear summer sky also spread wide. Under that sky, today the two of us went into the courtyard. It is a bit hot, isn't it?
じゃあ、そろそろ戻ろうかしら。
もう少し外がいい。
I don't get why some voice lines just disappeared, man. As she spoke, she turned a happy face towards me. She had really become attached to me. It probably didn't need saying, but there were no people around of similar age. The majority on the 7th floor were the elderly. That was why, even more so, I made to always be near her.
あれ？なんでこの場所はお花がないの？
Before her eyes spread a flower bed. Among the colorful flowers and the green grass that could be seen, only that one corner was in a barren state.
もしかして枯れちゃったの？
まあ、そう言えなくもないわね。
そうなんだ。ちょっとかわいそうだね。
As she spoke, she seemed a bit desolate. But that area was for flowers that bloom in spring. Having already finished blooming, they were simply gone now as they should be.
でもね、来月にはまた種を植えるから、きっとすぐに賑やかになるわよ。
わかった。
At those words, she once again answered with a happy face. To that girl, I continued with words that I suddenly recalled.
ここは荒野。だから花が咲くのよ。これはイザヤ書の言葉ね。
And so I began to explain to the girl how, in the 35th chapter, there was a passage. The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom. The crocus it shall blossom.
そして
Blossom. What brings dying?
盛んに花を咲かせ、喜び喜んで歌う。
ちょっとよくわからないかも。
まあ、何もないからって悲しむんじゃなくて。
Is it because there is nothing that joy can be born? Might be what it means.
へえ、お姉さんってすごい。
別にそんなことないわよ。
For some reason, the girl was impressed, but I denied it.
所詮 私は経典や聖者の言葉を知っているだけで、別に自分自身の言葉じゃないからね。
じゃあお姉さんって物知りなんだね。
そういうのには詳しいかもね。
博士？
博士か。そこまでじゃないけど、なんかいいわね。
じゃああれは知ってる？
As she spoke, the thing she pointed to was the phoenix palm growing at the hospital's entrance.
私パイナップルの木に思うんだけど。
パイナップル？
すっごく大きいよね。
Well, it's true that they look similar.
ねえ、どうして誰も食べないのかな？
He wasn't joking. I was pretty sure this child was saying it seriously. Did I correct her? Did I agree with her? For just a moment, I debated before.
いいところに気づいたわね、実は。あれはパイナップルの木なのよ。
やっぱり。
でもね、このことは絶対に秘密にしないとダメなの。
どうして？
だってみんなにバレたら食べられちゃうでしょ。だからああやってもっともっと大きく育つまで秘密にしてるの。
なるほど。さすが博士だね。
The girl answered as if greatly impressed.
あとね、他にこういうのも知ってるわよ。
何何？
With expectant eyes, the girl looked at me. And facing the girl, I took from my pocket my rosary and
あなたの上に主の豊かな恵みと祝福がありますように。
joining my hands, closing my eyes, I offered a prayer for the girl.
終わったわよ。
今のは何？呪文みたいなの？
呪文か。ちょっと違うかな。
Certainly, if it were a saint or an archbishop, maybe it could have been called a spell or magic. But I was neither a pastor nor of the clergy, just one of the faithful. So it wasn't anything extravagant like a sacrament. It was nothing more than a simple prayer.
じゃあおまじない？
そんな感じかな。
That or just a way to ease the mind. From the start, I wasn't expecting it to be effective. And really, that reason wasn't why the prayer existed to begin with.
でもまあせっかくだから魔法でもいいわよ。
わかった。
And then she showed me her usual bright smile. We, who had become friends, Nello and Nose. Up until now, even though we were supposed to be close friends, I, who could do nothing other than buy her ice cream. Such an Alice found one more thing that she could do for the girl. Oh, shit. The magic number 13. Kindness. I have a feeling there's gonna be a third row because it has enough space for a third row, right? Oh, I have a feeling it's gonna go third row.
熱い。
Without thinking, the words slipped out. It looked like today was also going to be a true midsummer day. And in that, while heading to the usual hospital, I turned to a different place. The Kyokai. Since the day before going to the beach, it was my second time coming here. For some reason, Himiko-san did not try to meet with Chihiro-san. More accurately, it was probably not just Chihiro-san. Family and friends, anyone close. One could believe that she was avoiding them. And so like this, in her stead, I came to Chihiro-san. The same as before, I quietly opened the door. My feet stepped in.
千尋さん。あ、節美さん。これ、持ってきた。
As I spoke, I handed over the key I was entrusted with.
姫子さんが渡してくれって。
そう。ありがとね。こんな暑い中を。
As she replied and accepted the key, Chihiro-san gave me her usual calm smile. And then from her pocket, she took out a handkerchief. The sweat that must be running down my face, gently wiped it off.
ありがとう。お姉ちゃんに伝えてくれる？もし必要な時はいつでも言ってねって。わかった。
All while she was speaking, Chihiro-san continued to dab away my sweat.
それじゃ。ちょっと待って。あなたの上に主の豊かな恵みと祝福がありますように。また私のために。
For that question, there came no answer. Just the usual gentle smile faced me. When I left the Kyokai, it was like a deluge of cicadas' cries. The sun right overhead dropped sharp, black, short shadows during the peak of the heat. In the middle of this, Chihiro-san said she would go now to university, and when that ended, would come again at the 7th floor. Saturdays, she also went to the school for the disabled, and Sundays helped with mass, so she said. I was sure that compared to the people of similar age, she was entirely different, that would pass their time in self-centered and fun ways. This way of life, whether it was only Chihiro-san who followed the path, or if one were a Catholic, was perfectly natural. I didn't know. Once again, coming to the hospital, I followed the white tape running along the floor and headed to the elevator. And on the now often crossed 7th floor, I hastened towards the room where Himiko-san was waiting.
どうぞ。いらっしゃい。今日も暑かったでしょう。
Before I could reply, I was caught by something else. At a glance, it seemed she was in the middle of digging around for something.
ああ、これ？今日は入浴デーだから準備してたのよ。
Now that she said so, I saw that set out around the table was wash basins, shampoos, and the like.
そうだ。あなたも一緒に入りましょうよ。
入る？
そうよ。一緒にお風呂よ。
Oh, okay.
何がおかしいのよ。
今のリアクションは良かったわよ。普段がクールだから余計に。ほらほら、女の子同士なんだからそんな恥ずかしがらなくていいじゃないの。
I thought about retorting that Himiko-san wasn't a girl, but stopped.
じゃあ行きましょう。
でもちょっと。
はいはい、いいからいいから。
Somewhere, Himiko-san seemed to be having fun. Like, she was having fun at my hesitation. As if she were pushing me from behind, taking me along.
汗も流れて気持ちいいでしょ。
In the end, I was almost half forced into the bath. It was just that. I had thought that it wouldn't be wide enough for us to go in together. But there was enough room for two to manage. Most likely, it had been built with the assumption that the helper or attendant would also go in. But instead of the size of the bat, I noticed something else. I couldn't help but fall silent.
もしかして珍しかった？
Saying that, Himiko-san pointed at the large scar at her own chest. So large that my own small scar couldn't even compare.
やっぱ私も女の子だからね。これができた時はショック大きかったわ。
I quietly listened to those words. Even if I had wanted to reply, I couldn't think of what to say.
で、ほら、背中流してあげるから、そこ座って。
わかった。
And so, together in the shower, she gently washed my back with a towel. At that, I recalled how it was like Chihiro-san had earlier wiped my sweat away. For me, I didn't know whether Himiko-san was a devout Catholic or not. But both of them, without question, I believe, were very kind people.
ねえ、ひみこさん、どうして千尋さんを避けるの？
前にも言った通りよ。
やっぱり優しくていい人だから？
まあ、半分はね。
じゃあ残り半分は？
それは秘密よ。ルールにもあるしね。
Oh. It had been also the word from before.
だったら私は優しくていい人じゃないから、お姉さんも親切にしてくれるの。
At that question, this time, Himiko-san also fell silent. And then, after a bit of thought,
特別なのよ、コロッケ博士はね。
またそんなこと言って。
ほら、そろそろ上がるわよ。
in the end, the conversation was avoided. Even without that, Himiko-san's words were full of incomprehensible points, full of secrets. But just maybe it was being mixed with someone else in her eyes.
もう食べ終わった？ってまたブロッコリー残してる。
だってあんまり好きじゃないんだもん。
しょうがないわね。
Even though before she would eat them, now she had come to leave them because she didn't like them. But this wasn't like her sickness had turned for the worse and her appetite dulled. It was simply that she was warming up to me, probably. Thinking that made me happy also.
じゃあ、はい、体温計お口で測ってもいいけど噛まないようにね。
With a smile, the girl held the thermometer in her mouth. What shone on that face? The summer sun came through windows that could open only 15 centimeters. Say, as I once again sat in the folding chair, she directed a happy face towards me.
あ、そういえば。
こら、危ないから喋っちゃダメ。
In a moment, the thermometer's alarm rang, and I read out the numbers on the LCD.
何度
6度5分。このくらいなら平熱ね。
じゃあ今日も行きたいかも。
中にはそれともアイス？
どっちかな。ちょっと悩むかも。
If there were no problems with her temperature, they could go to either one. This was with the doctor's acknowledgement, and lately had already become a tradition.
で、そうだ。それよりもね、知らないおばさんに話しかけられたの。
知らないおばさん？いつ？
昨日の夜に。
Who could it be? The people who had come to this place called the seventh floor was, in its own way, supposed to be restricted. First, there were patients in the family that come to visit. Then there were the doctors, nurses, and us helpers. Other than that, rarely, just the priests or sisters would come. That was supposed to be it.
誰かのお見舞いの人かしら。
パジャマ着てたからここの人だと思う。
That was a bit strange. Sure, in the normal ward, mingling of patients was common. Once in a while, for a chance meeting in this place, even lifelong friends or business partners would be made. But the seventh floor was different, because everyone was aware of their imminent death. Mingling between patients was almost unthinkable.
それで何を話しかけられたの？
何回目って聞かれた。
Oh, I'm guessing this kid is the character at the beginning of the story. Oh.
何回目？
初めてだったら教えることがあるって。
なんて答えたの？
よくわからないって言ったら、また今度って言われた。
What could that be all about? What did I think of it? Wait, maybe I'm incorrectly. Yeah, I'm misremembering. I think the first character in the beginning of the story was Satsumi. Anyway, come to think, there had been a rumor I heard how among only the patients of the seventh floor, a legacy continued to be passed down of the rules and the like. Of course, I didn't believe it. When I asked my previous assigned people, of course they denied it. But such a legacy really existed. Just what on earth were they passing down?
お姉さん？
ごめんなさい。
Without meaning to, I've been staring into space.
じゃあ今日は中庭にしようか。ほら珍しく今日は天気もそれほど暑くないし。
アイスも欲しいけど。
だったら中庭でアイス食べましょう。
Even if it was cool, it was midsummer. No matter how much wind there was, the sunlight itself was strong. That was why, leaving the girl on a shaded bench in the courtyard, I dashed to a neighborhood konbini.
お待たせ。
With the ice brought from the konbini in hand, I ran back.
すごい汗。
暑っ。
Because of the flowing sweat, without thinking, I flapped my skirt. Dashing in the midsummer, sweating was to be expected.
あらまだ溶けてないわよ。アイス。
ありがと
But where's Onechan's share? Did the voice light disappear? What the fuck?
大丈夫よ。
It was a 60 yen pouch of soda ice. With an exaggerated flourish, I took out the contents to show her.
じゃーん。
う。2つになってる。
それ。はい。半分こね。
Under the blazing summer sun, the two of us ate soda ice.
やっぱアイスは暑いところで食べるのが一番よね。
ちょっと溶けてるけど。
As we spoke about that, we ate. In the flower bed before our eyes, pansies and gerberas bloomed proudly. The winter use area from the other day, even that would most likely have something planted in it again.
ねえ、またあれやってほしいかも。
いいわよ。じゃあちょっとアイス持ってて。
Both hands of the girl held one ice each. One was mine, the other was hers. And then I took from my pocket the rosary, and as always brought my hands together quietly.
私たちが人に許すように、私たちの罪をお許しください。
The Lord's Prayer, also called Our Father. Our Lord. Sorry, the more conventional prayer name is Our Father, not Our Lord. I don't know, man. Probably anything would have been fine. Simply, my feelings were that if she were happy that I thought of her, then that was enough.
はい。もう終わったわよ。
ありがとう。
いえいえ、大した魔法じゃないですから。
In the end, I was simply one of the faithful and nothing more than an imitation. It probably didn't need saying, but none of those words were my own either.
今日のは誰の言葉なの？
もちろんイエス様ご自身よ。
Yesu.
じゃあ他の人のもあるの？
すっごく偉い聖者様とか教皇様とかたくさんの人の言葉があるわ。
へえ、そんなにいっぱいあるの、お姉さんは知ってるんだ。
To the girl who seemed impressed, I gave a nod. Of course, I didn't know them all, but reading the things related in the way to the gospel was my intention.
そうだ。ねえ、あげようか。
As I spoke, I once again took out from my pocket the rosary.
いいの？私がもらっても？
私はもう一つ持ってるし、何よりこれで一緒にできるようになるわよ。
できるって、私にも魔法が？
魔法かどうかは知らないけどね。
Holding the rosary in her hand, the girl looked happy. Normally, patients of the 7th floor were admitted and discharged a number of times. But for the girl, there was no home to return to. That was why she was always here. That was why I too was always by her side. Nello and Alice met, and soon it would be the second month. Normally, it was the time that the first discharge would have come. Wait, I'll be back. All right, I'm back. Let's start 14. Taboo.
はい、今日のお弁当。
行ってきます。
Just like always, with lunch in hand, I headed to the hospital. Even though it was already halfway through August, a hot day still seemed to be continuing. The 7th floor. To the nurses whose faces I had become familiar with, I lowered my head slightly in greeting. What I then saw in the hall was a number of patients. Since it was right when the morning temperature examination ended, they had probably come with their helpers for a walk. Suddenly, while looking at those people with white wristbands, a thought came to me. Are the residents of the 7th floor, couldn't they be divided into two groups? The patients who seemed almost to have taken a philosophical view and were calm, and those who seemed to always be busy doing something.
大丈夫ですよ。ちゃんと支えてますから。
Hearing the voice I recognized, I turned around and there was Chihiro-san. She was with an elderly lady in a wheelchair. Most likely, that person was Chihiro-san's assigned person. Say, I'll walk again later. Should we do that?
そうですね。もう少し日が陰ってから中庭に出ましょうね。
With a calm way of speaking, she turned her usual gentle face to the elderly lady. Say, Chihiro-san, would you do that thing you always do?
いいですよ。
I had thought she would answer that way, as she quietly joined her hands,
私たちを試みに合わせないでください。
and she offered up a prayer, a number of the other words following.
ねえ。あ、節美さん。ああやっていつも祈ってるの。ええ。誰かのために祈るのは良いことですからね。
Chihiro-san answered with her usual kind expression, but at those words I felt something that tugged at me. For someone, that was why I decided to ask a direct question.
自分のためじゃダメなの。それは。
There, her words stopped. There was no more response from her. The usual gentle face was also gone. The first time I saw that expression on Chihiro-san, a simply troubled face looked at me. Again, like before, Himiko-san was gazing at maps. At my entering the hospital room, she just gave me a brief glance, her eyes soon returning.
面白い。
Does it seem that way?
ううん。
As I answered, I sat down next to her and gazed at the maps too. Also, just as I thought, this sort of act couldn't be considered fun. But these maps, what were they to Himiko-san, I wonder? Even the 7th floor people, who seemed to have taken a philosophical view on everything, perhaps they too waver with some regrets.
例えるならば、私たちは死刑囚ね。
え？
死ぬと宣告だけされたけど、その日がいつ来るかわからないから、限られた時間に追われているのよ。
The condemn. Now that she said it, one could almost agree. Just as I had thought just before, on the 7th floor, there were people who were always busy. Rather, one could even think that because they knew they were dying, they were trying to be lively. Or perhaps, for people, being aware of death, maybe that's the first time they are also able to become aware of life.
落ち着いている者は、すでに覚悟のできた人でしょう。もしくは、そう装っているものでしょうね。
姫子さんは。
もちろん後者よ。この年で覚悟決められる人間なんていないわ。
She declared it plainly.
そうじゃなかったら、死ぬまでにやってみたい銃のことなんて言わないでしょ。
Saying just that, once again Himiko-san gazed at the maps. Then she turned to me, who was gazing at the mask in the same way.
節美髪伸びているわね。
あ、うん、そうかも。
Now that you mention it, it might have gotten a bit longer. This month, Mother hadn't cut it for me yet.
切ってあげようか。え、来なさい。お姉さんがカットしてあげるから。
By the way, if you remember in the first story, her hair already reached a lot around like beyond waist length or around waist length for her, so she really never cut her hair ever since then, I guess. At the sudden offer, I couldn't really grasp the situation, but Himiko-san was already walking ahead, and I followed after. Then, when we came in front of the nurse's station, she turned to the nurse inside.
ねえ、上行きたいんだけど貸してくれる？
There's nothing wrong with that. Is it a haircut?
ええ、今日は風もないからね。
Then after taking something from the nurse, Himiko-san once again walked down the hall.
節美、こっちよ。
Walking a bit, the place we finally stopped at the end of the hall. Be correct. It was just where you got off the emergency stairs, in front of an always closed large metal door. Up until now, I never seen it open, but probably this was the entrance for the room.
じゃーん、ここで鍵の登場。
For a second, the world turned pure white. When my eyes adjusted, what appeared before me was strong wind, summer sky, high fence, as laundry items, sheets fluttered in the wind.
今日はいい天気ね。絶好の散髪日和よ。
Looking up at the sky, Himiko-san spoke up.
初めてでしょ。ここに来たのは。
うん、初めて。
まあ普通はそうよ。入院患者には絶対に来させない場所だからね。
That reason, even without saying, could be imagined. A fence about the same height as the 7th floor's ceilings. What reason put it there was simple if you thought about
じゃ
it.
あ散髪しましょうか。
本当にやるの？
大丈夫よ。こう見えてもお姉さんうまいもんよ。
As she spoke, she pointed to a small bench before us.
さあ、まずはそこに腰掛けて。
And then she took out a big, clear, white garbage bag.
次はここに頭を通して。
Probably cut with scissors. There was a hole just large enough to pass one's head through in the garbage bag. When I put my head through as told, like a barbershop's cover, it totally covered my body. And then before my eyes, she made the scissors go swish swish.
さてお客さん、どれくらいにしますか？
お客さん？
夏らしくバッサリなんてどうです？
揃えるくらいで。
了解しました。
While laughing and running through with a brush, with a practiced hand, Himiko-san then began cutting. The delightful sounding swish of scissors. Just now, she seemed to be trimming the hair in the back for me. If she cuts it strangely, that'll be bad. While holding that thought, I also considered other things. She said that the hospital patients couldn't come to this place. That reason even I could understand and be satisfied with. Then, unheeding of the fact that she was a resident of the 7th floor, why was it that Himiko-san could come here like this? Was it because she was a former helper and that she's trusted?
ねえ節美、気になるのは自分の髪？え、それとも違うことかしら？
違う方。
いいわよ。じゃあ答えてあげる。元ヘルパーだから信用されてるってわけじゃないわね。
じゃあ何？
やっぱこの現代においても禁忌の一つなのよね。カトリックにとっては。
At first, I didn't understand what she was saying, but I soon realized suicide.
元カトリックのくせに信用されているのね。
ほんと。思わず期待を裏切ってフェンス飛び越えてみたくなっちゃうわよね。
As always, Himiko-san said something where I couldn't tell if she was serious or joking. Though likely she wasn't, but just Suddenly she ran towards the fence. What would I do? Right now? I was the only one here. Somehow, while thinking only about that, I started feeling uneasy.
さて、こんなもんかしら。はい、お客さん、カット終わりましたよ。
ありがとう。
As I replied, I accepted the hand mirror and looked at my hair.
前髪が。
When I looked about 2 centimeters above the eyebrows, it was cut straight across. It was like a Japanese doll, or a child at the Shichigo-san Children's Festival. Oh, she had the typical Hime cut, I guess.
かわいいわよ。せつみ。違う方に気を取られているからよ。女の子なんだから自分の髪も心配しないと。
At my slightly sulking face, Himiko-san looked like she was enjoying herself even more. No matter how much you say it suits me or is cute, laughing like that, there's no persuasive force behind it. Helplessly, I gave a sigh. Then I asked about the thing that I had sensed from before.
ねえ、もしかしてだけど、私を誰かの姿と重ねているの。
なかなか鋭い質問ね、それは。
And then, when she thought a bit,
半分はそうかもしれないわね。
じゃあ、残り半分は。
それは秘密よ。
that was also made a secret. It was the same with the rules from before. Once in a while, there were things that Himiko-san wouldn't talk about.
さてと、じゃあ帰りますか。
Putting away the scissors she used, the two of us had cleaned the space of Himiko's barbershop. Then, just when I thought she was walking towards the door we entered from, suddenly those feet stopped and turned around.
ああ、そうそう。最後の一つだけどさ、そろそろかなって思っているんだけど。
Final one? About time? Most likely it was probably referring to what she had said before. The 10 things to do before dying.
またどこかに行く気なの。
ええ。とりあえずここじゃダメね。こんな高さじゃ足らないわ。
Was she saying that for jumping off? It wasn't enough? Those were her words as she pointed at the rooftop fence.
あなたは知らないことだけど、本当なら私、2回目くらいなのよ。
何のこと？
入退院の回数。私はつてがあるからずっといるけどさ。
And then I was taught that the 3rd time was the last. Also, that there is no fourth.
やっぱ私も体力的にミミと近いみたいでね。病院を抜け出すのもここらが最後だと思うのよ。まあ、日帰りは無理だと思うけど、よかったら付き合ってよ。
Slowly, the sky stained orange. As the burning sun sank and the loud mimic cicadas gave way to the mournful cries of the Higurashi cicadas. The place I suddenly stopped at was the usual schoolyard. Not really doing anything, just standing in front of the metal bar, thinking about things from just before. Oneya-san, do you want to play with the bar? Perhaps out of consideration for me being there, a child playing nearby once again spoke to me.
いいのよ。私のことは気にしないで。
With that reply, even while giving me a slightly puzzled look, the child once again ran back to the group of friends who were playing. Just before, Himiko-san said that returning on the same day wasn't possible. Where were we going, she didn't know yet. But I was told to make sure to get mother's permission. If it's okay, come with me.
無理強いはしない。
Even when you say that, to spend close to a month together, then say that this would be the last. Again, the two of us ate today's dinner. Atop the table was the usual dishes and fried things. Looking pleased, Mother beamed, Okasan beamed at the empty lunchbox. Even during a dinner that was the same as always, I was thinking about what happened earlier.
ねえお母さん、
どうしたの？
またドライブに誘われているんだけど。
いいじゃないの。例の姫子さんよね。
うん。でも今度はお泊まりなんだけど。
いいわよ、別に。
Despite the possibility of what if, he easily gave her
じ
permission.
ゃあまたお弁当用意してあげるわね。
ありがとう。
また頑張って作っちゃうわよ。ってそうだ、今日の出来も悪くないわよ。
Saying that, the plastic that she offered up was the usual potato fry.
あら、どうしたの？あなたポテト好きでしょ？
So naturally, very matter-of-factly, Mother offered them, seeming very pleased. But in those hands wasn't a pink manicure. Instead, a slightly reddened hand happily offered the plate. Potato fry. All I had to do was quietly eat them. No matter how much I hated them, if I endured it, it was fine. But was this really kindness, I wonder? Suddenly I was reminded of Himiko-san's words. I really wanted to say, ごめんね to Hasan, to Himiko-san.
ねえお母さん、
I gathered my courage and brought things to light.
姫子さんって7階の人なの。
え？7階って何？
ホスピスのこと。
ホスピスのこと。
あそこの看護婦さんなの？
It might have been perfectly natural, but that's how she was thought of.
そこの患者さん、
はい？
ホスピスの入院患者さん。
え？ホスピスの患者さんって。
A long, very long silence. The voice of the host on the television, not as words but as noise, rang out. In reality, it might have been a very short time, but for me, it felt unbelievably long. I thought, just maybe, never again would time move. It seemed that never again could something go back to how it was. And I was afraid. Already, the smile that had been there before was gone. The hand holding a croquet was where it had stopped. Even though she had been so happy that I had made a friend, if I hadn't revealed it, even now, she would have been smiling.
やめて説に。そういう人に近づくのは。お母さん、怖いのよ。いつかあなたもそうなるんじゃないかと思うと。
ごめんなさい。
As expected, I had no other words. That isn't kindness. Words which Hibiko-san said to me as I silently ate the potato fry. But to put that into action, I had also been told it would be very difficult. Half a prayer. Alright, let's start this one.
Kora, じっとしてなさい。そんなこと言われてもくすぐったよ。
The seventh floor's bat room. Today was one of the 2 bathing days of the week.
私までびしょびしょに。ごめんなさい。いいのよ。お姉さんもついでにシャワーしちゃうから。
Even though it was cold wide, when compared to a typical home's bath, it was just slightly wider. When 2 people were in the tub, it was enough to be quite tight.
まだ うちょっとでシャンプーのすぎ終わるから。はーい。
The girl was squeezing her eyes shut, waiting for the end of the shampooing. Even this kind of exchange was now becoming a familiar thing.
さて、次は姫子理髪店よ。
Opening a hole in a garbage bag and passing her head through, I had the girl sit on the folding chair. If there was no wind, it could also have been done on the roof, but mostly the cutting was done in the hospital room. Us helpers were also gardeners, cleaners, and occasionally barbers.
どうかしら。前髪も揃えてみたんだけど。なんかちょっと変かも。あら、まっすぐ揃えるのは嫌いだった？そうじゃないけど、短すぎるよな。もう、これくらいが可愛いんじゃない。子供らしくって。なんか恥ずかしいかも。
The scent of shampoo's mint spread from the still damp hair into the narrow hospital room. The girl sat on the folding chair that I always sat on, and from the garbage bag, she gave me a bit of a dissatisfied look. On the floor spread 3 sheets of newspaper. It was a barber shop that used 2 small hand scissor mirrors. A few days after, if one looked, it was towards the middle of August. Today also, the girl was here. Today too, I was here.
じゃあ、体温計ちょうだい。
Taking the thermometer that was in her mouth, I read the numbers on the digital display.
なんと6度2分。これなら大丈夫ね。じゃあ今日も中庭でアイス？いいえ。今日は別の予定を考えているの。別の予定？まずそのためにはこっちが先ね。
As I answered, I opened the paper bag I had brought. Half of today's plan was in there.
それ何？新しい服を持ってきてあげたのよ。パジャマはこの前ももらったのに。パジャマじゃないわよ。
With a bit of flourish, I took it out of the bag to show her. After all, it was something that used over half of this month's allowance, and I also had spent 2 hours debating over which to get.
じゃん。ワンピース。気に入った？
Happily, the girl vigorously nodded many times. It was a one-piece dress in summery white, with a yellow sunflower pattern on it.
さて、それじゃあ着替えたら早速行くわよ。行くって、もしかして外へ？教会よ。
As I answered, I undid the buttons on her pajamas. Truth was, from before she had said she wanted to visit the Kyokai.
本当は別にパジャマのままでもいいんだけど。まあ、せっかくだからね。お姉さん、ありがとう。
The burning sun and the sound of cicadas. Today looked like it was going to be another hot day. Under that sky, we walked side by side. It was the first time we went outside the hospital. And of course, even if she said she wanted to go farther, I wouldn't be able to take her. No, not that I wouldn't be able to. No one would. That's why a place like the neighborhood Kyokai was the only place I could take her. In the moments we reached the Kyokai, I quietly opened the doors that I was used to passing through.
誰もいないね。まあ、この時間はね。
The girl's expression turned slightly nervous. Considering her age, it was probably her first time coming to a Kyokai.
ここに神様がいるの？それは難しい質問ね。
To be precise, it was probably a consecrated place for the worship of God. At least for me, here or not here. didn't seem like an answer I could give.
でもここでなら魔法効果が違うんだよね。
まあそんなとこかな。
And we approached the altar and offered prayers. I prayed for the girl's happiness, even if the future were closed. At least until then, I wished that she would be without regrets. And the remaining half, for always holding many secrets, I prayed for my own forgiveness.
どう？もう終わった？うん。じゃあ帰ろっか。またいつでも連れてきてあげるからね。
ありがとう。
And then, as we made to leave,
お姉さん？あなたの上に主の豊かな恵みと祝福がありますように。お姉さんにも魔法をかけてみたよ。
saying that, her usual cheery expression faced me. Without a single shadow, an innocent smile faced me. Surely, she didn't understand the meaning of the words. However, even more so because of that, the sentiment made me really happy. And then, half of the prayer used for my own forgiveness. For me, who could do nothing other than buy ice cream for her. It was painful. Right above was the sun. Noisy were the cries of the cicadas. As usual, the hot days continued, and it was a summer day, no different from yesterday. But a little bit changed when the girl, up until now, she had been so attached to me. But between one day and the next, she came to hold a bit of a distance.
おはよう。
おはよう。
Exchanging our morning greetings, I sat down in the usual folding chair. Then, when I looked at the tray had already finished eating,
もうまたこんなに残しちゃって。
ごめんなさい。
between one day and the next, she wound up barely eating.
ダメよ。しっかり食べないと。
でも欲しくないから。
なんだったらさ、食堂でもいいから。
Even with that suggestion, no response. Though before, even if it wasn't for ice cream, she'd happily go. To not eat, that, on the 7th floor, was a deadly thing. Unlike other wards, full-blown nutrient IV drips were not given here. Of course, there was some sugar contained in them, but the main purpose was rehydration. The word deadly meant exactly that. It was immediately linked to that.
あのね、そんなことじゃあっという間に弱ってくるんだから。
弱ってくる？
そうよ。食べないと体が持たないわ。
じゃあ弱った先は？もっと体が弱っちゃうとどうなるの？
それは。
Here, her words stopped. In my throat, I swallowed the word die. Normally, preaching about life and also death was the duty of the church. Our duty was also to support that. And here was the 7th floor, a place where we speak to those who have lived life peacefully or coming of death. However, for a young girl, for a girl who could not have been said to have fully lived, just who in the world would speak of that now? Exactly in these times, maybe I should have let her hear the words of Saint Augustine or Lord Jesus, but Jesus. For me, offering up half a prayer and buying ice cream was about all I could do. A few days after, late night. As always, the girl ate very little. And at that girl's side, I was again sleeping in the spare bed.
大丈夫？
Later at night, in the dark hospital room, the girl was coughing. Right now, all I could do was gently pat her back. The past few days, because she had been leaving most of her food, it was noticeable that her strength was weakening. And now she was clearly avoiding me. If I spoke to her, she would barely make a response. And the times where she would speak to me on her own totally disappeared. Amongst all that, slowly, she opened her mouth.
ねえ、お姉さん、これ返す。ロザリオ。
What she took out of her pajama pocket was a rosary. Without a doubt, the one that I had given her before.
それでね、もうここには来ないでほしいの。どうして突然そんなことを言うの？それは。
There, her words stopped. Since a few days ago, she had definitely been acting strangely. And then, a single thing came to mind.
少し前のことだけど、確か知らないおばさんに話しかけられたって言ってたわね。それってルールっていうのに関係してる？
For that question, there was no response. However, I felt the silence wasn't a no, but a yes. I had been convinced that it was a rumor, but it looks like that kind of legacy did exist. And most likely the girl had heard it.
もしよかったらお姉さんにも教えてくれる？でも大丈夫よ。絶対に秘密にするから。誰にも言っちゃダメだって。
Finally, she cried. Even though, until now, not once had she cried. Rules before all that I have heard was that they were only passed to the residents of the 7th floor. Essentially, it was probably only the problem of those who had headed towards death. That was why, in my case, I might not have the right to hear. No matter how close, I was always. I could not become Petrash who accompanies them in death. In the end, just someone who could see off.
ごめんね。もう聞いたりしないから。
I simply just patted her back, so that just even a little bit sooner, she would stop crying. Just a little bit sooner. She would smile for me just a little bit sooner. She continued to cry, but the legacy that was passed down, the contents were simple to imagine. Don't eat. That was the shortest route to death. That was something that us helpers had also suspected. Coming to a place like this, 7th floor, people who die from the worsening of sickness was rare. Instead, almost as if on their own, they gave up food, simply weakening, then dying. I learned that those were common. Most likely, that was not for their own sake. Financially, psychologically, for various reasons, was probably an act of stemming from wanting to lighten the burden of those left behind. I, who had become close, was beginning to be pushed away for the same reason. For the one leaving, it was too painful. Those left behind just was too. What the fuck is this sentence? It was to pain those left behind just a little bit less. I think they could have said this as. Anyway, I get the idea. It was to lessen the pain, but like, what? This doesn't feel like an English sentence. What the fuck? Anyway, and also on top of hearing those rules, there was a chance she learned that which I most feared.
死んじゃうの？それは。
There, words choked.
それはじゃわからないよ。ちゃんと答えてよ。
thought to say something, but especially at a time like this, I knew that I had to say something. Even though I was supposed to know what kindness should be. Even though I was supposed to be a Catholic in order to speak of life and death. And yet I could not find any words. Outside the window, there was a night sky that was beginning to lighten. In this narrow hospital room, the girl's sobs reverberated. Even though I was the professor, I couldn't give an answer. At this time, if I were a real doctor of the church, if I were St. Augustine or St. Jerome, maybe I could have answered with something. Well, so much for being a hakase. Alright, Roadster. Outside of the window was burning sunlight. Even though it was still early morning, the heat let you know it was going to be another midsummer day. Since last night, I hadn't seen Mother, Hassan. More precisely, I had been on the brink of tears myself, filled with feelings of regret, and I hadn't been able to face her. I'll apologize to Himiko-san. I felt really sorry to do so, but I didn't want to make Okasan any more sad.
節美もう起きてる
Okasan? It was just before Okasan left for her part-time job.
昨日は悪かったわね。
うん。
じゃあこれ二人で仲良く食べてね。
As she spoke, she handed over two lunch boxes for two. Yeah, they could have really worked on that sentence.
気をつけていってらっしゃいね。
でも
いいのよ。お母さんなりに考えた末なんだから。あなたは私の大切な娘だけど、私はあなたにはなり得ないの。
She spoke softly, but with her usual kind face.
だからお母さんなりにね、節美が少しでも笑っていられるようにしたいの。
お母さん。
I headed to the hospital. In my hand, a tote bag with two lunches. Early morning, abruptly my feet stopped at the usual school. It looked like the children hadn't come yet today. As always, I was facing the metal bar. After gazing at it a while, I quietly stretched my hand out. Placing strength into my arms, I pulled with all my strength while kicking the ground. For just a moment, I sensed a floating, and my body spun around. A somersault I hadn't done in a month. And then, from that slightly higher place, I looked around at the world. With arms that was beginning to shake from supporting my weight, this world that I could see. The me right now, as one of the parts that build everyday life, might appear as if nothing was out of place. Before I continue, I don't know why the art has a lot of scan lines. I think it was deliberate. It was artistic to have like scan lines on the art. But I saw the yesterday I went to the artist's Twitter account and they're still making great art. Amazing. I also saw some Umi-chan art. That was amazing. The guy was involved with Key, so that was interesting. But there were a lot of Setsumi stuff. Anyway, let's continue. But that was an illusion. It's not like I was accepted. Placing the school behind me, I headed towards the hospital. I was sure she was waiting, so I hurried to her.
お待たせ。はい、また裏の駐車場に止めてるから。うん、わかった。
As I responded, I accepted the car keys. I then gave the message Himiko-san had entrusted to me.
今回で最後だって言ってた。最後？お姉ちゃんがそう言ってたの？うん。そう伝えてくれって。そうなんだ。
Sadly, that was all Chihiro-san quietly murmured.
どうしてあなたなんだろうね。
Behind those words were definitely a dissatisfaction towards herself. We're clearly being pushed away. And loneliness and sadness was there too.
優しくていい人だからよ。千尋さんは違うのよ。違う？そう。私たちとは違うの。
Oh, the distinction of us. Damn.
悪いけど意味がわからないわ。うん。私にもよくわからないから。
Why did I say those words, I wonder? The exact reason not even I knew. But now, I had a feeling that I was coming to understand Himiko-san's feelings.
でもね、たとえ違ったとしても私は妹よ。今まで20年も一緒に過ごしてきた兄弟なのよ。千尋さん。
The always composed and kind Chihiro-san was, for the first time, crying. That figure was neither the pleasant helper nor the resolved Catholic. Just simply a helpless girl.
お姉ちゃんのこといつも祈ってるのに。
Chihiro-san continued to cry, and the only thing that I could do was gently pat her on the back. Some other words or technique, I just couldn't find them. Before, Himiko-san had said that for people, there were only 3 choices. Perhaps Himiko-san didn't want Chihiro-san to be ours.
ごめんなさいね。変なとこ見せちゃって。気にしないで。
Then I headed to Himiko-san. In my right hand, a key I received from Chihiro-san. In my left, the 2 lunches that Okasan had made me. In the end, I didn't know what the final thing was. Even where we were headed, I hadn't been told. The parking lot. Here, I waited for Himiko-san, who would probably be coming soon. The car called Yunos that I got to ride last night was today also washed to a shine. I'm sure Chihiro-san, or the person we met before at the beach, was always keeping it clean. As I thought about that,
悪い、待たせたわね。
Himiko-san finally appeared, as always taking the key as if it were perfectly natural. However, her clothes were different from normal. They were probably working clothes, something like white overalls, and were clothes that you couldn't call free even insincerely.
その服は何？
今日はこの服じゃないとダメなのよ。パジャマ姿の私では意味がないのよね。
Even though normally, whatever she did, it had been in pajamas. Was it today she wasn't a resident of the 7th floor?
説明乗って。
I climbed inside the car. Right before I was made to put on my seatbelt. And once that was verified, the engine was started in silence.
じゃ、行くわよ。
Looking up, the sun was high above, and it looked to be another hot day. Under that sky, with a big turn of the wheel, the Yuno slowly moved out. I didn't know exactly where we were headed, what we were going to do. However, just like this, Himiko-san's final drive began. Reflecting the deep blue sky while running, the red open-top car. A light engine noise was raised as familiar scenery went by, drowning out the voices of the cicadas as it continued on. Passing the intersection in front of the hospital, in moments we came out onto a large road.
それでどこに向かうの？
高いところよ。
具体的な場所のことよ。
それはわからないわ。
That was a bit unexpected. It was Himiko-san after all. So, whatever she said, I hadn't planned on being surprised, but
もしかして気ままに走るって意味？
それはちょっ と違うわね。言葉の通り高いところって意味よ。
But just that much, it was so abstract I had no idea.
国道に出るまでには決めようと思うわ。
Would it really be decided, or was it something that could be decided so easily? Besides, even if a destination were decided, what about the route all the way there? There was no navigation system, and even though she was always looking at maps, it didn't look like she brought them today.
大丈夫よ。どこに行っても道に迷うことはないわ。
なぜそんなことが言い切れるの？
そりゃすでに日本中を覚えたからよ。
The response came as if it were perfectly natural. Was that possible? It's not like I was doubting Himiko-san's words. But for me, it was quite unbelievable.
それにね、今の私に必要なのはナビでもなければ医者でもないわ。
じゃあ何？
そうね、
Then after a moment of
コロ
thinking,
ッケ博士よ。
またそんなこと言って。
the roadster continued on. From the city to the suburbs. Lowering the speed, we drove while eating Okasa's lunch with our hands. What? Okay, I mean, it's onigiri and fried stuff, so, you know.
でも説明よくうちの人が許してくれたわね、外泊を。ちなみにうちの人にはさ、私ってどんな人物設定になってるの？一般病棟の人？それとも看護婦さんかしら？
Himiko-san saw through everything. Clearly until yesterday, that was exactly how it was.
7階の人って知らせたわ。
大したもんね。ちょっと見直したわ。でもまだこれが嫌いとは言えてないみたいね。
As she spoke, what was in her hands were the lunch's potato fry.
じゃあお姉さんがとっておきの方法を教えてあげるわ。
そんなのがあるの？
とっても簡単よ。あなたが好きになってしまえばいいのよ。
Certainly, it might be exactly that, but
難しいこと言わないでよ。
あらそう？病気を治すよりは簡単だと思うけど。
I'm sure it was exactly as Himiko-san said, that my sickness were cured, and all the problems would be solved. Okasan, who had written her hands, would not be sad and would once again smile, and have beautiful manicures. Even that I understood. Understood, but it was something I couldn't do anything about on my own. Compared to that, coming to like potato fry might be a simple thing. The roadster continued on, its red hood reflecting the blazing sky. And then, just when the sun was coming close to its highest point, what appeared before us was an even bigger
間
road.
もなく国道に出るわ。
As she spoke, she pulled the car onto the shoulder and stopped.
目的地は決まった。
まだちょっと悩んでいるのよ。
Hearing nothing other than a high place, I hadn't a clue what she was even debating
やっ
over.
ぱ高いって言えば富士山かしら。
富士山。
If I hadn't been mistaken, that was certainly what it sounded like.
なんたって日本一だもんね。
That really couldn't be thought of as serious. Mount Fuji, height 3,776 meters. Probably even need saying, but Japan's highest mountain. I didn't know too much, but I have heard the snow remain even in the summer. And for the winter, I've heard the only true mountain climbers could take it on.
じゃ目指しますか。富士山にでも。
いくらなんでもそれは無謀よ。
分かってるわよ。私だってバカじゃないわ。5合目までは車で行けるし、そこだって標高2000メートルくらいあるんだから。
Even saying that, it's not like we had to go all the way to such a place. It was that sort of place for even normal people, and the two of us, at the least, could be called healthy. And in Himiko-san's case, he was a resident of the 7th floor.
それにね、7階と比べたら100倍は高い場所よ。
Those words I just listened to in silence. I wasn't positive, but maybe Himiko-san really was going to jump down. I recalled before, while on the roof, she whispered that this height it's not enough. While looking at the fence,
まずは6号から東北道に向かうわ。
with just that announcement, the roadster once again began running, heading towards the national road. To turn the wheel from here to Mount Fuji. Just how much distance was there? For me, I didn't even have an estimate. What I knew was, Himiko-san was not joking, but serious. And also, she most likely would not get lost. From the national road onto an even higher, larger road, we then switched onto the expressways. Just as before, perhaps because she was driving her usual safe way, cars in the high-speed lane were rapidly passing by. Eventually, we came to a place with many tall buildings. It seemed that we had entered the Tokyo area.
板橋ジャンクションから池袋線に乗るわ。
The road had continued straight until now and changed to one that twisted. On that congested expressway, the roadster drove even slower.
今抜いてったのはアウディよ。その前のはパジェロ。新型のジオマスターね。
Jesus Christ, Pajero is slow. It's a very slow ass SUV, by the way. I had one. Anyway. Occasionally, Himiko-san would name the cars that passed us on the expressway.
不思議なもんでね。7階行きが決まった途端、余計に車が好きになったわ。
As she spoke, she slowly turned the wheel, mashing the large curve ahead of us. That expression seemed somewhere sad, and also somewhat nostalgic to me.
あなたも車好き？わからないわ。よかったらこれあげようか。
Her free left hand, she pointed at her own
どう？
car.
もらってくれる？
What's up with this misspelling? What the fuck? Dot. What the fuck? After a moment's thought, I shook my head to decide. More so than the problem of not having a license, I felt it was something that I shouldn't accept.
そっか。みんなに断られちゃったわね。環状から透明に乗るわ。
Wait a second. Isn't her loans not yet paid? Wait, it was 36 months. Oh. Yeah, it's not yet paid, man. And they only have one more year to go to be fully. No, I don't even know if they're paying it. She lost her job. Obviously, she lost her job, man. She was in the hospital all this time. Anyway. With those words and the big turn of the wheel, the car shook just a bit. I felt that Himiko-san in the driver's seat was different from usual. Not only were her clothes different, but the somehow strict expressions were more common. The high place that would come all this way to go to Mount Fuji. Without a doubt, it was a height that couldn't even compare with the 7 floors of the roof. Was she really planning on jumping down? And the 10 things to do before dying. The final thing, just what kind of purpose did it hold, I wonder? Sora. Ooh. Sora. From there, we connected on to yet another expressway. Already, since we left the hospital, about 7 hours had passed. The area had completely turned to what appeared to be in the middle of the mountains. Right in front of the signs were the words, Mount Fuji skyline. Most likely, we had already come to a point quite close. And then the cloudless summer sky had at some point become dark, blackening evening sky. It's starting to come down. When I looked, the rain started to fall from the dark sky. They don't have a roof, so they're gonna be drenched.
ちょっと待ってなさいよ。フォロー出すから。
Oh, I thought it was they didn't have one of those. Like it was complete because I was given an impression at the beginning the Unos didn't even have like one of those. Apparently it does. Pulling the car to a stop on the shoulder, Himiko-san started to fumble around with something. And then after waiting a while in the light drizzle,
何があったんだ。
まあ、大したのじゃないけどね。
he answered while closing the left and right windows. The Roadster became a perfectly normal car. Until now, it had been a mystery as to what was done when it rained, but apparently it took on this form. Once again, the units drove off. Rain had begun to come down and obscured the road in pure white. The thick black rain clouds, even though it was still before evening, made it dark enough to let one believe it was night. And a cold sensation striking my head, I looked up at the roof. There was a number of drops dripping down.
悪いわね。これボロだからさ。
Just like that, and just like the words meant, the dripping leaks started. Looking at how the rain was falling, it didn't look like it would stop for some time.
説明。これ頭にかけてなさい。
What I was given was a large towel. As instructed, I put it on top of my head.
姫子さんは
平気よ。それにどうせすぐにやむと思うから。
じゃあ私も平気。
She probably wouldn't say, but this might have been the only towel. And even if she were worried that I would get wet, at the least I was more worried about Himiko-san herself. That's why I tried to give my towel to Himiko-san. When I did,
やめなさい、説明。
that was different from her usual way of speaking. This was a very strict expression that she showed occasionally.
でもそれじゃあ姫子さんが。
いいのよ。私は濡れようが平気だから。
でも
ただし、説明に風邪なんてひかせたら承知しないわよ。
Make Setsumi? Just who was she talking to? How it came down harder. The August rain. For some reason it was excessively cold. And it still didn't seem like letting up.
なめないでよね。勝手にこの格好してるんじゃないわよ。
As it talked to herself, Himiko-san muttered. I had a feeling that didn't mean physically not getting wet, but some different meaning. Throwing up spray, the roadster continued running under the endlessly black sky, and now went from an ordinary road onto the Mount Fuji skyline.
もし寒いようだったら言ってね。
With the towel still on my head, I answered Himiko-san as she got wet from the leaks. It'd be better if she took shelter somewhere. Even such an obvious suggestion somehow faltered in the atmosphere. Gripping the wheel was a Himiko that was different from usual. It was the first time I've seen a Himiko-san without pajamas. We continued driving. At some point when the rain had completely stopped, if you look, there was even the face of a large moon out in the sky.
まもなく富士宮口に到着よ。
Along with those words, we went from a narrow mountain road to a suddenly open area. Finally, the Yuno stopped. Looking around, there were signs for the 5th station parking lot. During the season, I have heard that there were many mountain climbers. Perhaps it was the time because the weather had been bad, but the area had very few cars around.
はい、缶ウーロン。暖かいわよ。
ありがとう。
With a tea brought from a vending machine in hand, the two of us ate what remained of the packed lunch.
冷たくなっても美味しいわね。
In the end, it seemed like we were spending the night here. When we set out, we had said that this was our destination.
まだ上に行くつもり。
さあ、どうしようかしら。
While holding a croquet in hand, Himiko-san gave a vague answer. Certainly up until here, we were able to come by car. According to the parking lot sign, the altitude was already 2,400 meters. But from here on, there were only mountain climbing trails. Even if we weren't planning on heading up all the way to the summit, Himiko-san, a resident of the 7th floor, was unlikely able to climb up a mountain. And if, even then, she said she were aiming for higher, shouldn't I hold her back? Suddenly opening the door, Himiko-san stepped out of the car. Just as I was thinking about such things, I also hurried out the car. When I left, she was right by the car, gazing at the night sky. It had just stopped raining. I was a bit surprised. The thought that she might have silently started climbing up crossed my mind. Then, perhaps guessing at my unease. Himiko-san began to speak.
そういえば以前にさ、年の離れた友達が欲しかったって言ったわよね。
あ、うん。
Certainly before the pineapple tree, it had been the first thing that she had wanted to try.
あれさ、ちょっとだけ嘘だったかもしれない。
嘘。
本当は年が離れてるってよりも、あなただから友達になりたかったのかもね。
Himiko-san spoke somewhat seriously about something I had also vaguely noticed.
その理由は？
難しい質問だけど、強いて言えばただの直感かしら。ピンときたって感じね。
That was also something I felt I understood. It was close to the feeling I answered Chihiro-san with. And before, when I had asked whether she was seeing someone else in me, I was told the half of that was exactly that. Then the remaining half of the reason that she had been left a secret at the time. Could this be it?
ねえ、節美。一つ質問していい？
うん。
もし、あなたのとても親しい人が少しずつ弱っていったとして、あなたはそばでずっとその姿を見ていたい？それとも、自分の知らぬ間にいつの間にか亡くなっていてほしい？
I thought about the meaning of the question, and after thinking seriously in my own way,
わからない。
those were my true feelings.
私はずっとそばにいてあげたいと思うわ。でも自分が去る立場ならば逆、そばには誰もいてほしくない。
矛盾してるわ。
その通りよ。去る者と残される者は決して交わることはないのよ。
You know, I somehow understand this. Even if I could bear my own pain, I couldn't bear another's. She wanted to say that, perhaps. Then, Chihiro-san, and the best friend we met at the beach, avoiding them. Then, why was I here in this place? Why was I chosen? Did Himiko-san want to say that if it were me, then she would be fine?
これはね、穴に落ちて初めて気づくことよ。だけど、どんなに私がここに穴があるからと声を上げても、穴に落ちた者の声は地上を歩いている者には届かない。
That was the reason? Then, did she want to say that because I had also fallen into the hole, that the voice would reach me?
あなたは違うわよ。まだ落ちかけね。這い上がれる可能性がある。
もし無理だった時は？
それは誰もが自分で考えることよ。
Then, the circumstances now were all the results of Himiko-san's thoughts? After falling into the hole, stopping prayers, and maybe turning them into curses.
ほんと、パトラッシュはいいわよね。大好きなネロと一緒に天国に行けるんだもん。ネロだって寂しくないわ。
Even though I was the Hakase, I couldn't give an answer. At such a time, if I were a real Hakase, a doctor of the church like St. Augustine or St. Jerome,
なんと答えれるのだろう。じゃあ、これだけでも教えて。神様はどこ？聞こえなかったみたいなの。教会でもお祈りしたのに。
where was Kami-sama? And that question in my mouth sealed.
ごめんね。そっか。博士のお姉さんでもわからないんだ。
herself up in the bed and facing the window.
やっぱり空の上
While speaking, she looked up at the sky, looking up from the windows that could only open 15 centimeters at the lightning pre-dawn sky.
ねえお姉さん、私屋上に行きたい。屋上、うん、少しでも高いところでお祈りしたら聞こえるかもしれないでしょ、神様に。ダメ？
いいえ、わかったわ。
Supporting the girl, we headed to the roof. Normally this place was one where patients couldn't go. Were not allowed to go. However, this time for me, for the owls who was unable to do anything other than buy ice cream, for the powerless Hakase who couldn't answer with anything, there was nothing else that I could do. The blue-purple pre-dawn sky was turning into white of day. A bleak place where no one could be seen. Once in a while, the fence that was taller than the ceiling of the 7th floor rattled from the blowing wind.
ここは気持ちいい場所だね。
She spoke as if whispering to herself. From her pocket, she took out the rosary. That was what I had once given to her as a present.
やっぱりこれがないと魔法にならないもんね。
And then, quietly bringing hands together, facing where the sun would rise, she spoke.
皆が生徒されますように、私たちを試みに合わせないでください。
This was also what I had taught her before. A number of parts from the Lord's Prayer. However, for this girl, she didn't even know the meanings to the words. Simply words for salvation. Has nothing else, nothing other than magic. That was all she thought of them.
お姉さん、今のは聞こえたと思う？
At those words, nodding or even affirming was beyond me. I just could do nothing but remain silent. That's useless. Maybe I should have said that. Perhaps I should have spoken of atonement. Oops. Right, here we go. Or should I have said, for having lived 8 years. Wait, give me a second. I need to check something. Alright. We're in. Be thankful to God.
ねえ、お姉さんも一緒に祈って。
At those words, I silently nodded. She could do nothing but nod. Then, just like the girl who continued to pray, in the high sky I offered a prayer. From this 7th floor's rooftop, I prayed only for the girl. Usually, half was used for forgiving myself. But now, gathering all of it, I prayed only for the girl. But definitely supposed to be listening somewhere. The words that Kami-sama I prayed. For some reason, tears came.
どうして泣いてるの？
いいのよ、別に泣いたって。こんな時には泣いてもいいのよ。
それは誰の言葉？イエス様？
No. Those were my words. If I were a saint, my words were not simply for comfort, nor a charm, and they were real magic.
今こそ奇跡を起こすのに。
Those leaving and those left behind. No matter how much of a best friend, owls could not become Petrash. I learn of my own powerlessness. Dawn came to Mount Fuji Fifth Station. We got out of the car and took some big stretches.
ねえ節美、どこにいると思う？
いきなり何のこと？
神様とやらよ。
さあ、あなたの方が専門家でしょ。
そうね、そうだったわね。
And then, after a bit of thinking,
やっぱあそこかしら。
as she spoke, she looked up at the sky. The pure blue summer sky stretched on forever. Yeah. Might be that if you're not closer, you can't be heard. Just saying that, Himiko-san started walking towards the climbing trails. I had sensed the possibility, but already that act itself was the same as suicide.
本気なの。禁忌なんでしょう、カトリックには。
元には関係ないわ。
And then stopping her walking feet and turning around.
悪いわね、節美。一言言ってやらないと気が済まないのよ。
言うって
決まってるじゃない。神様とやらに文句をね。
Faint? The Kami-sama. Was she serious?
もしかしてそれが最後の一つ？
ええ、これが最後の一つよ。
With just that answer, Himiko-san began walking towards the climbing path. Right now, I should be stopping her. Perhaps I should be giving her back a push. Because I didn't know which, just being by her side was all I could do. The sun had come right above, and the unheating of the altitude, cicadas noisily cried.
思ったよりきついわね。
Bro, they're really climbing up Mount Fuji. Jesus Christ. We continue on the climbing trail. Walk a bit, then rest. Walk a bit, then rest. Just repeating that. Occasionally, the other mountain climbers would quickly pass us by, while we slowly went upwards to the high place that Himiko-san aimed for. Now, it was some 2 hours in, and we were making to leave the new 6th station.
大丈夫？
あんまり大丈夫じゃないわね。
Just as the words meant, her panting was furious. Even when the food and drinks that we bought at the shop were being carried by me, it probably didn't need saying, but Himiko-san was the resident of the 7th floor. No matter how healthy she looked, no matter that she didn't need a wheelchair, that was because of her age. Her condition's progression had simply been early. Even without doing anything, there was no mistake that she was within range of death.
何よその顔は。言いたいことがあるならはっきり言いなさいよ。
もう帰ろう。
もっと強く言ってよ。え？だったらもう帰れって命令してよ。
もう帰れ。
You did the exact opposite. Jesus Christ, Setsui. I guess she wasn't so. I don't know. She was down. She was still in. She was still hesitant, I guess.
やっぱり従えないわね。
And then once again, her feet moved to ascend. Right now, what should I do? Unable to pull her back, was I only able to be there, helplessly watching?
じゃあ押してあげる。
That was why I pushed Himiko-san's back, so as not to lose to the steep slope, so as to make it even just a bit easier. In my own way, that was all I could do.
やめなさい節美。
嫌よ。
あなたまで具合悪くなったらどうするの？私はそんなこと望んでいるわけじゃないわ。
じゃあ帰りましょう。
それは。
This exchange we repeated over and over. Slowly, Himiko-san climbed up. Eventually, when those feet stopped, That was the time I feared. At that time, just what should I do? For someone's sake. Oh shit, second to the last. Alright, here we go, guys. And as the orange stained day had all unnoticed turned to the purple of night.
ここでいいわ。
Finally, Himiko-san's feet stopped. We were just beyond the 7th station, perhaps. It was a place with many rocky stretches and a very wide, wonderful view. Looking at my watch, it was already 3 o'clock at night. That meant almost an entire day had passed. As expected from the time and maybe yesterday's weather, there was no other climbers to be seen. Jesus Christ, if I remember correctly, 6th to 7th station there's no lights at all, so it's literally dark. Jesus Christ, man. Anyway.
夜明けを待って。ここで言うわ。
Saying that, Himiko-san began walking towards the edge of the rocky stretch. Peering down the set edge of the cliff, it was dark and hard to see, but the bottom of the ravine was far enough that you couldn't guess its height. At the least, if you were to throw yourself out, without a doubt, you wouldn't live.
いよいよ盛り上がってきたわね。
高さも十分なのね。
ええ。7階の100倍くらいよ。
Altitude was about 3,000 meters, and also no high fence for protection.
説明聞きたいことがあったら今のうちよ。
At those words, a number of thoughts swirled. But even though there should have been a number of questions, for some reason, putting each one into words was difficult. So after a moment's thought, I finally opened my mouth.
もっと姫子さんのことを教えて。
Even this was a question that resulted from my thoughts.
私のことを聞きたいの？それとも私のような立場にある者のことを聞きたいの？
姫子さん自身のこと。
私はこの世界に5万といるクリスチャンの一人よ。それ以上でもそれ以下でもないわ。
But now, she was going to say complaints to God, Kami-sama. That was probably attempting to break one of the greatest prohibitions.
じゃあ以前のフランダースのどうしても3人の中から選ばないといけないの。
ええ。人にそれ以外の選択肢はないわ。
She firmly said so. The one who was leaving Nello, the one left behind Alice. The two that will never meet.
じゃあ姫子さんは誰？
For that question, there was no answer. Little by little, the sky widened in this place. In this place where it seemed you could touch the sky, she quietly hung her head. Surely the pajama wearing Himiko-san was Nello. Then, could the Himiko-san now be Alice? Say complaints to Kami-sama if Nello wasn't allowed to. Then, it was understandable. Then, just who was I? For what purpose was I brought to this place?
どうやら時間が来たようね。
Saying that, Himiko-san looked up at the sky.
説明受け取りなさい。
And taking something from her pocket, she handed it to me.
別に捨ててくれてもいいわよ。ただもう私には持っている資格ないからね。
Just what that was supposed to mean, I didn't have to ask to know. However, up until now, even while saying she was a former, why did she carry it with her all this time? When I thought about it, I felt that, deep down, it's not like she really wanted to do this.
本当にいいの？
祈りがあるなら呪いもあるってことよ。
やめてほしい。そう言っちゃダメ。
理由によるわ。
A reason. One to pull her back. Even if Himiko-san herself wished to. Even if she were already a resident of the 7th floor. with a closed off future. If, just like with living, people were given the right to die. Ah, shit. Alright, here we go. Then, a reason to be capable of stopping that. Just, who would have such a thing? And I don't even know what is right. What would be kindness? Alright. A lot of good words here, Nat. For some reason, I began crying, being nearby and able to do nothing. I came to know how powerless I was. It started to get light, and looking up at the endless sky, I was overcome with sadness. No matter how much I thought, I couldn't come up with any decent reason to pull her back. If Himiko-san herself had decided, then I might not have any right to interfere. But even if it were so, even if I didn't have a reason for it, why I should pull her back?
だって私も悲しいから。
Not some random person. Because me, would be sad. Because this me here wanted her to stop. Even if that were even if it were just the one-sided ego of the one left behind. Even if I could bear my own pain. Because I can't bear another's. Because the one leaving behind, being sad. But the others, the ones remaining, were pained the most. Moreover, for me, it was still... it's impossible.
そんな顔しないでよ。そんな顔されると私も辛くなるじゃないの。
If I were a saint, if my words were not simply for comfort, nor a charm, but real magic,
今こそ奇跡を起こすのに。ごめんね、お姉さん。友達にならなければよかった。
the girl stood before me as I continued to cry, and she apologized sadly.
ちゃんとルールにあったのにね。ここに来たら友達を作ってはいけないって。ごめんね。ちゃんと私が守っていたらお姉さんを泣かせることもなかったのに。
And then, once again facing the sky, the girl started praying. Facing the high summer sky that stretched out forever, she offered a prayer to Kami-sama, who was probably out there. And that serious figure, the rosary gave her in hand, believing that the simple Lord's Prayer was a magic spell. That figure.
もういいから、もう祈るのはいいから。どうして無駄なのよ。そんなことしたって。
Finally, as the Kurisu-chan Christian, the words that shouldn't be said came out.
だからもうやめて。あなたは助かる。どうやっても死んでしまうのよ。
And then, even as a helper, even as Nello's best friend knows, the words that I must never say came out.
分かってる。じゃあどうして？別に私はもういいの。泣いているお姉さんが泣き止むように早くいつもの笑顔になってくれるようにそれだけを祈りたいの。
どうして 泣いて言うの。
知らないの。
At a
こ
time,
んな時には泣いてもいいのよ。
Himiko-san cried. In the place where it seemed you could touch the sky, it was the first time she showed me tears. At such a time, what words should I say? Just, what would be kindness? Because I didn't know that. Simply, so she would stop crying, even just a little bit sooner. So that her smile would return, even just a little bit sooner. Patting her back, just gently stroking, was all I could do.
やめなさいよ。中学生にいたわられるほど平和な人生送ってないわよ。
気にしないで。病人歴ならあなたより上よ。
年下のくせに。
Blue-purple dawn sky grew white and changed to a sunrise. The wind that began to blow from the valley made a lonely sound. Himiko-san cried. The wind over the ravine also wailed, and probably I too was crying.
やめるわ。文句言うのは。
As she spoke, she faced the sky and placed her hands together.
じゃあこれ返すわ。
そうね。これがないと効果薄かったわね。
Then she hung the rosary and returned on her neck. From this high, high place to an even higher one towards the sky, she offered a prayer.
よく聞きなさい。難聴気味だろうからここまで来てやったのよ。
Bro, this is the Christian Kino I always wanted.
別に私のことはもうどうでもいいわ。だけど少なくとも私のことでいつまでも心を痛める人がいないようにして、そして少しでも早く立ち直るようにして。
As if speaking to herself, Himiko-san coolly murmured. There were a number of other words continuing on, but for me, I couldn't hear what she was saying beyond that. Perhaps Himiko-san had made up with Kami-sama. That expression was neither despairing nor compassionate. It was proud and could even be considered beautiful. And this was probably what those two, she said, would never meet. The one leaving wish for those left behind.
これで全てよ。
And then she turned towards me.
どう？月並みのお願いで拍子抜けした？
I gave my head a small shake. Even if they were called cliché, if it were in Himiko-san's position, would I have, in the same way, sincerely wished for those remaining behind?
説明。あなたが証人よ。
私が。
もし願いをたがえた時は、次はあなたが代わりに文句を言ってね。神様とやらに。
Bro, considering how Setsumi died, it kind of makes you think what the hell happened in between this event and her own death, man.
それがここに私を連れてきた目的。
まあ半分はね。
残り半分はやっぱり秘密。
そうね。
Saying that, she thought for a moment.
魔法みたいなもんよ。
魔法？
今は効果なくてもね、き きっと後で聞いてくるはずよ。
Once again, under the morning sky, we hit the roads. Within that, with the lunch brought from the convenience in hand, Himiko-san whispered,
とりあえず私もルールに一つ追加させてもらうわ。
ルール？
友達は作ってもいいってね。
taking the rosary from her pocket.
本当はこのロザリオもさ、やっぱまだ私には必要だからね。
As she spoke, she moved it from her neck to decorate her chest.
だから節美には違うものをプレゼントするわ。
違うもの？
決めるのはあなたよ。
And now the roadster drove on. From the slope rode slowly towards the city. Gripping the wheel was Himiko-san. Not in pajamas, but the usual Himiko-san I knew. What was different from all the times before was the rosary visible on her chest.
ねえ節美、一つだけ言わせて。これから先あなたが誰を選んでも最後の最後には心まで殺しちゃダメよ。
Bro, seriously, what the hell happened in between the time they had this conversation to her own death, man? What happened, man?
何のこと？
今はね、きっと大丈夫。最後には笑えるはずよ。
That probably was what she mentioned before. The so-called magic. Maho. Maho Sky. Magician. Maho. Alright, 19 magic. Maho. It's time.
じゃあここでお別れしましょう。
The rolling sound of bells. Stopping the car in front of the kyokai. Himiko-san let me get off.
節美、もうお見舞いに来ちゃダメよ。
So in words, they meant we would never meet again. It meant farewell.
こんな時私は残されるものはどうすればいいの？
別に普通でいいのよ。
もっと具体的に言って。
言葉の通りよ。普通のまま。
Even though a close person would soon be dying, even though they never met again after this, could those left behind there really be normal?
難しいこと言わないでよ。
じゃあ笑って見送ってあげて。
もっと難しいわ。
And then, turning her back towards me, Himiko-san started walking towards the kyokai in front of her. Facing that back, I asked a final question.
姫子さん、最後にもう一つだけ。
いいわよ。
ネロは、アロアは幸せだったの？
At that question, Himiko-san silently looked down. Shortly after, just briefly, she glanced at the church, and then boldly facing the sky.
さあどっちなんだろうね。よくわからないね。
As she spoke, she gave me a smile, even though very soon she would probably be disappearing from this world. In the end, she faced me with her usual smile.
それじゃあさよならコロッケ博士。
And so, the friend of 40 days of one summer disappeared to the 7th floor. Named Himiko, a princess's Heime, and the child's cult. Blood type AB, age 23, Libra female. Final identification bracelet color, white. In the year 1999, of the world's over 1 billion Catholics, one disappeared. Oh, 1999 was a special year. Holy shit. It was the first time when the Suinosaur happened. Anyway.
私に変なあだ名と不思議な魔法をかけ、この世界からも消えた。
The high sun when you look up, the rolling sound of church bells, the endlessly continuing blue sky, the loudly crying voices of cicadas, Even though very soon the summer would end, today also looked to be a hot day. That very long summer ended. Epilogue winter. Quickly fall passed, and early Christmas songs were playing in the streets.
節美、荷物が届いているわよ。
I took the small package from Okasa. Normally, it wouldn't be receiving any packages. However, just one thing came to my mind. A package to be delivered on a certain date, that sender's name, with a sense of premonition. I went to check. Out. There is written small with a ballpoint pen. That was from Himiko-san. I didn't know at what point she sent it out while she was still alive, but she had said that she would give a different thing as a present. And then trembling, with equal amounts of expectation and ease, I opened to look.
One Piece.
One Piece. Summery white with a cute yellow summer sunflower pattern. That was something that she had said numerous times she would buy for me. Thing that I seemed to want. The one-piece dress spread in my hands by the window on a hanger were the washed pajamas. And the sailor uniform I still wore now. As proof of my once normal days, the only piece of clothing other than the pajamas that I had. My heart. Wait. Happily before I knew it, I was about to pass my arms through the sleeves. But I stopped my hands. And then once again returning to the box, I headed to where the person was more worthy of accepting this was. A place I had come to in a number of months. Passing through the sides of the nearest station, my goal was to find her. But she was nowhere to be seen. In the room that Himiko-san had once been in, I was expected, but there was a nameplate I didn't recognize. Giving the old lady in a wheelchair inside a small greeting, I left the 7th floor. While returning by chance, the courtyard came into view. In that place, here and there, daffodils were beginning to blossom. The other flower beds had been left barren in the season, and I thought their singly moving figures were proud and beautiful. The rolling sounds of bells. Visiting here was the first since Himiko-san's funeral. Then I called to the person I had been searching for.
千尋さん。あ、節美さん。お久しぶりね。どうしたのこんな場所まで。病院にいなかったから。あ、ヘルパーはもう辞めちゃったから。少し気持ちが落ち着くまでお休みすることにしたの。
Saying that, unchanged from before, she showed me her calm face. With that expression, I felt I might not have a duty. Felt I'd been told that I didn't have to go say complaints in her place.
ところでどうしたの？もしかしてお祈りに来たの？うん、そうじゃない。
As I spoke, I offered the box in my tote bag with the clothing.
プレゼントよ。お姉さんから。ちょっと小さいかもしれないけど。そう。ありがとうね。
Accepting the box, she gave that reply, but somehow a troubled expression surfaced.
千尋さん。ごめんね。実はお姉ちゃんから聞かされてたんだ。アンのこと。もしかしたら節美さんが私にそう言ってくるかもって。でね、その時はこれを渡してくれって。
Atop the bed spread maps. On there were national roads, expressways, countless roads I didn't know the names of. Oh, okay, this is where she started reading off the maps and all. Separate wide maps of 47 prefectures and a few 10 tens of thousands to one scale, and 3,000 to one detailed city maps were drawn on them. Returning to One Piece, I received maps. Perhaps Himiko-sen had expected this, that I would choose this side. And then, tucked into the maps was a single envelope. What was inside? 5 1,000, 10,000 yen bills. Once, while looking at the maps, he had said that it would be just that much, one could go anywhere.
これが最後に笑えるための残り半分の魔法なのだろうか。
If there is a prayer, then there is also a curse. Most likely I would choose neither. I have a feeling I won't be able to choose. As someone like that, just what would become of me, I
こ
wonder.
んな私でもいつかは笑えるのだろうか。最後には笑うことができるのだろうか。
And that is Narcissus' second. I'm gonna continue reading up on the other stories soon. Not right now. I'm gonna read the next one tomorrow. All right. There was obviously something that happened in between the second to the first, because by the time we get to the first, she was so... It's like she already forgotten whatever the fuck Himiko told her, except for she collected the maps knowledge about cars and all that, you know, the stuff she learned from Himiko, but like her viewpoint was a bit different. Or was it because she met some guy who wasn't I don't know, man. All right. Well, you know, there are 3 more stories for me, 3 or 4 more stories, I think, for me to go. So we'll continue again tomorrow. What do I think? Yeah, this is one of those I need some time to stew over my thoughts. But anyway, I like it so far. Straightforward. But, you know, I'm not really familiar with the boy from Flanders, was it? Oh, a dog from Flanders, sorry. So I really couldn't like... So they were making a lot of references to things, so... I really couldn't like, you know... I was like, oh... They were making some reference to some story I'm not familiar with. And I felt like I really needed the context so I could like fully grasp what is they were talking about and all. Anyway, that's it, and yeah, I'll see you on the next upload, which is we're gonna continue on the reading. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Ciao.